under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Welcome. We're live. Please like, share, subscribe. We got a great show today. It's the Give Back Gang. Dr. Coney.
All right, fellas. Now, your first job every morning will be to
post quality content. Summon the ancestors, too. Don't hold nothing back.
Hey, what are you doing? Get the hell out of here before I bust that camera.
Look, me and the YouTube people got this little misunderstanding. You see, they're big spooks. I'm black first. Huh? See, they promote censorship. We have unfiltered content. Huh? Yeah? You see, they got the big platform. I got intellectual property. Both got followers, goals, agendas, and dogmas to educate and inform. But they use fear and intimidation. We vibrate love. Dr. Coney is in the building. Let's get that at half volume production. Dr. Coney is in the building. Dr. Coney is in the building. Please like, share, subscribe. We're going to unpack a lot. Chicago, the real ones. Got to be bigger than our excuses. We owe it to our ancestors. We owe it to our progeny. We owe it to ourselves. But black men there. Hey, yo, Great Debated TV. We got Dr. Coney in the building on the Self Luv Show tonight. Get off up in here. Dr. Coney's in the building. Get those young beta noops in here. Where they at? Yo.
I killed them. I killed them all. They're dead. Every single one of them. And not just the men, but the women and the children too. They're like animals, and I slaughtered them like animals.
Animal? Facts. We on it. Oh, so suave. Look at himself, he oh so suave. Come on with this nonsense, zone. Please hit the thumbs up. If you can, please hit that thumbs up. Tricks that algorithm. Lets them know we're having a good time. Self Love Show will start in 1 minute. Let's get her going. 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. My bad.
What are you looking at, slave? Poets tend to bear all, to expose all. At least the dope ones do.
We the Give Back Gang. Gang, gang.
Rest up, my boy.
12 pigs with lipstick. First prize badge for the fattest 12 dipshits. In cute little blue SS uniforms. Sad, chicken little. Livers and gizzards so brittle. Pigs to slaughter. Lambs of the creation. Pigs blowing 7 horns of 7 nations. 12 unicorns added 1 giant leap just for reverberation. I got a feeling. I got a feeling. Yes, what? I got a feeling that swine ain't healthy or appealing. I got a feeling that soon the kings will rise and start doing the kneeling. I got that feeling. 12. We are live. We are live. We're about to get it going. We are live. The Self Love Show. We got Dr. Joseph Coney in the building. Southside product. Inglewood product. So we got lined up for tonight. Get some questions ready. You got some in the chat. What's going on? We good. We good, production. We good. My bad.
Be a service to
My timing was off.
For a 19-year-old woman or girl who wants to be a woman, is
watch American Skin.
Is to really remember
she played the wife.
Love is the best way that you can receive
the mom.
love from anybody else because it's coming from you. A lot of times we forget.
She's from the 7 Tray, Stony Island.
We look externally for this feeling of validation and adoration.
She's in the Give Back
and
gang.
Approval, and it has to come from within.
Facts. Gotta come from within, people. Not without. Within. Heal thyself. Know thyself.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
You couldn't handle truth. You listening? You on my frequency? What are you mumbling about, young man? Open your mouth up, young man. Speak. Look me in my eyes, young man. We're gonna bring the silverbacks back, y'all. Music.
I'm just a kid from Chicago.
Good job, production. Yeah, buddy.
I'm just a kid from Chicago.
Yeah, buddy, that's all I am. Self-love.
I'm just a kid from Chicago.
Vision.
Trying to make a way in the game of life, trying to make a play.
I'm just a kid from Chicago. Where's he from?
Back against the wall, all the brothers
Bensonhurst?
do it ball. Just a kid from Chicago.
Maywood?
Trying to make a change. Why these haters wanna
Naperville?
take me out the game? Just a kid from Chicago.
Skokie?
Stocking on the low.
What? I'm just a kid from Chicago. So sorry. Big ups to low-end representative Scooter Chose for this piece of intellectual property, allowing us to use this. He's a member of the Give Back Gang. We're going to sit with him soon. Y'all look him up. Scooter, S-K-O-O, D is in David, A, Chose, C-H-O-S-E. Big ups. Welcome to Chi-Town's very own The Self Love Show, where our motto is, on earth as it is in heaven, and as above, so below. We can be found Malcolm X exclusively right here on YouTube's channel. This ain't that network. So, thought you were going to get your everyday Ms. NBC fix, or your fake CNN fix, or your fake Fox fix. Yep, well, this ain't that network, because this is TATN. Yes, sir. TATN. I'm your co-host, 9 Mills, also known as Self. What down, Chi-Town. Repeat after me if you so choose. I am stronger than my excuse. I am stronger than my excuse. One last time. 3's the charm. I am stronger than my excuse. That propels me. Today is 4/21/2021. Again, we are live. And as always, I want to acknowledge that every one of you souls can be any place in this vast universe. And thankfully, we all Scooter chose to be here together. Here together. Self-love. What's good?
Business.
What down? What you manifesting today, bro?
Love. You know me. Love. What you manifesting, Self?
Pure, unfiltered, magnanimous, ancestral love from the ancestors, bro.
No doubt.
Yes, sir. Hey man, what is the Hawk doing today? What's been going on, bro?
Snowed again. Didn't stick though. I'm happy about that. About doing my do, doing what I do. And just it opened up. I'm like, what is going on out here? It's snowing. It's April 21st.
That's what I was about to ask you. Are you telling me that it snowed on April 21st, bro?
And 20th. Back-to-back days.
It's super bizarre. Hey, super bizarre. But welcome everybody to Chicago's very own The Self Love Show. Today we have a great one lined up for everyone. Self Love and I, we've personally been waiting on this one for quite some time.
Yes.
Yeah. So on today's show, we're going to go into the early life of an internationally respected, definitely nationally respected surgeon in his field. Okay, we're gonna go into that. All right. his early life on the south side of Chicago. Okay, that's what we're looking at. Okay, also, we're going to touch on the science of self, and we're going to, since we have such a great doctor in the building, we're going to discuss some health tips that someone from his position, could give us, could provide. Of course, this isn't medical advice. Blah 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 blah. You guys, listen to your doctor and blah 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 blah. All right, and then also the proprietary Self Luv Show name game. So hang out to the end because we're going to wrap it up with Wordsmith's final words. Don't want you guys to miss that. And Wordsmith, rest in peace. We didn't acknowledge this to DMX, kind of yesterday, but right.
Man, that's a big one.
Rest in peace. He said that somebody slipped him the cocaine, but wow, right? Won't be happening in Silverdale, but all right. Also, on our announcements, if you all are into sports and you're into politics, I fancy you probably are. If you fancy yourself African American and you fancy yourself, in the Chicago area, you're probably, involved. You're born in it as far as the politics. Yeah, you're born in that. And then we got the sports. So we discuss politics, and it's kind of like a male version of The View, with locker room talk from a bunch of guys of various backgrounds. And it's an hour and it's live, and please support that. That's every Thursday right here on TATN at 9 p.m. Central, which would be 10 p.m. Eastern. So, and then lastly of the announcements before we get this thing cranked up, our tiers. Our goal of our show is to reach 9,999 subscribers. Self Love and I will not try. We will spark a change right there in the city of Chicago, which doesn't involve violence whatsoever, but we shall and will, by order of the God within us and the God around us, make history. So that's the ultimate goal. That's proprietary. So you guys help us get there, and then you'll find out what that's all about. And each one of you will be, stepping stones in this historical international movement. Now, that being said, we recently hit our first tier. It's a 13-step program, which was 299 subscribers, and Self Love's going to get himself mentally, psychologically digressed on live TATN.
Regressed.
Oh, yeah, regressed by the brain bully. yeah, by the brain bully. Emerge McVeigh, he fancies himself some sort of a rapper. And then also he's a professional
hypnotist.
Yes, damn good one too. So big ups. And, shameless plug. If you want to watch the brain bully, the Self Luv Show, he's a member of the Give Back Gang, and you can watch it if you go to the playlist and you find the Self Luv Show full episodes. You can dig down there and find the one with Mr. McVeigh. So that being said, our next tier, before we get this going, we need to get to 499 subscribers. At that point, myself and my lovely better half, okay, we're going to strap on, what do you call that? Backpacks, right? And somebody's going to stuff them with what?
Parachute.
Yeah, they call them parachutes, but it's just a nylon material, what have you. And then we're going to tandem jump out of a moving plane, right? And, skydive, facing our fear project. So we need you guys to subscribe, hit that subscribe. Self Love, how much does it cost, by the way, for anyone to subscribe to this channel?
Well, it is the grand old price of free 99. That's right. Free 99, not even a dime.
Now hold it now. I've been in the community, Self, and tell me you've never had this conversation. Somebody comes around and Oprah Winfrey gives you a brand new Rolls Royce. I wouldn't want it because I can't pay the taxes. Or somebody wins a lotto and he got to pay the taxes. I'm saying, do you want?
What kind of imbecile is that?
Oh man. Yes. We all have to pay the taxes, and we all don't like it. But
There's no
man,
tax on this one though. It's free, 99.
yeah, well, thanks for that's where I was going. I guess I digressed too far, and I appreciate that clarity. Any other, doctors in the building? We'd love to hear from you. Let us know if you're in the building. Give us let us know, and also your location. Let us know where you're located. Are you in Cleveland? Are you in the Windy City? We'd like to hear from that.
Absolutely. And we have to take a little housekeeping, but before that, we have the Self Love Show quote of the day. And it is, if you want to find the secret of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Once again, if you want to find the secret of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
It's
That's
science.
Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla was that was a man. All right, so we got a couple of videos after the housekeeping that I really need you to pay close attention to. They're very important. Building our nation off of this. So pay close attention.
In entering upon this course of instruction, each of you should, so far as possible, lay aside for the time being all previous theories and beliefs. By so doing, you will be saved the trouble of trying
All the way through the show.
to put, quote, new wine into old wineskins, end quote. Luke chapter 5, verse 37. If there's anything as we proceed which you don't understand or agree with, just let it lie passively in your mind until you have enjoyed the entire show. For many statements that would at first arouse antagonism and discussion will be cleared and easily accepted a little farther on. After the show is over, if you wish to return to your old beliefs and ways of living, you are at perfect liberty to do so. But for the time being, be willing to become as a little child. For said the Master in spiritual things, quote, except ye become as little children, ye shall in no wise enter into the kingdom of heaven, end quote. Matthew chapter 18, verse 3. If at times there seems to be repetition, please remember, the Self Love Show is a lesson, not a lecture.
Silverback More Growth and Development Platform. Number one, repair our nation via reparations.
Facts.
We demand our silver back.
Facts.
Number two, to connect our breadwinners with our activists. And three, show an accurate depiction of African American Chi-Town. 4, to shine a light on positive influences. 5, heal our community one person at a time. 6, to provide an unfiltered platform for our influencers. 7, recycle the black dollar. 8, to provide mentors for the mentorless. 9,
Yes, sir.
to close the gap between us and our pink kinsmen.
Me. Yeah. Let's close the gap. I see it no other way. Close the gap. Man. We had another great show yesterday. We were unpacking for you guys. The Self Love Show is every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard, 8 p.m. Eastern. Yesterday we unpacked can you be quote end quote down if you reside outside of the quote, end quote, black community. We unpack that. And if you'd like to check that out, check that out. It's right here on TATN.
TATN.
And big ups to CD in the chat. He says, awesome cousin Dr. Coney. So either that guy is a Crip or he's blood related to, can you say blood on? Hey, geez, everything's a gang term. But either he's a cuz or he's, related. And I'm assuming he's related. I'm the overseer, wearing his blue jacket. He says, much love to Dr. Joseph Coney, much respect. CD says, he's in the building. He's a doctor of education. Oh, wow. All right. Yeah. Big ups. Big ups. Self?
Yeah.
Yeah. Self likes education, you guys. All right. And then I'm the overseer said more growth and development program. And oh, look at that. Jeff Shavers. Jeff Shavers is in the building.
Yo.
Right? Hey, man.
That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, look at that. Jeff Shavers. Yo. So that's a major big up. So in case y'all know, we're about to get this going. And we're going to get our guest. He's been waiting patient here and his time is valuable. Self-love, before we jump into that. And for you guys to know, we have Dr. Joseph M. Coney in the building. He was born and raised on Chicago's notorious South Side, specifically Inglewood. You know what I mean? Self-love and I, we walked through Inglewood, back in the day, 3, 4, 5 deep. I'm covering up my shirt like I got breasts exposed. You know what I mean? That's where this guy grew up at, So, this is what we got today. So here we go here. Just bear with me. Okay, here we go. So Self, I wanted to ask you, Noop. I know, but I'll let you answer it. I'll let you answer it yourself. But did you see a parrot? I know you talk about people parroting doctors and parroting the CDC, and because Stanford can come out, the University of Stanford can come out and say that the face diapers are now, what they've been saying about the mask. And I don't want to be that guy. We got doctors in the building. This isn't about that. We're going to stay on topic.
Right.
But you talk about how people parrot, right? And just well, a parrot itself was apparently a key witness. In a murder trial. Did you see that?
Do you know I heard about that?
Yeah, because
I think I read about it. I don't think I saw any video, but I think I read about it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna tell you about it. But hey, but bro, it's only a 2-minute video, you guys, and then we're gonna run it, and then we're gonna get the doctor in the building and go through this conversation. We promise. And Self, if you can tell me, oh no, go ahead. You just run it, and I'll do it.
This talkative parrot helped finger a killer. You heard right. The bird's owner, 45-year-old Marty Durham, was found shot to death at his home outside Grand Rapids, Michigan. His wife was also found badly injured with a gunshot wound to the head. Cops at first thought they were both crime victims. Then the parrot named Bud turned into a stool pigeon, suddenly squawking what sounded like a reenactment of the murder. Had a foul-mouthed argument broken out between husband and wife? And it ends with these chilling words.
I felt it. I literally felt what the bird was going through.
Bud is an African gray parrot like this one. They are a very intelligent species and are especially good at mimicking human speech.
Snitching.
Animal experts say African grays are very sensitive to traumatic events.
Thought they were like
Prosecutor Ellsworth Stay says he believes the parrot witnessed everything.
The parrot was in the home when the murder was committed.
Following an investigation, Glenna Durham was charged with murder, accused of shooting her husband 5 times, then turning the gun on herself in a failed suicide attempt.
Man, she was big before
Why
she
did
went
she kill him?
started eating that county
They had
food.
some financial problems. On the day of the murder, their house was being sold in a sheriff's sale. which is a foreclosure type proceeding.
Glenna Durham was just convicted and was clearly not happy with the verdict. Bud the parrot is now in the custody of the murder victim's ex-wife, Christina Keller.
When Bud says those words, I feel like it's being relived in front of me. My house goes cold with the feelings, the emotions of that night.
So the final
It's pretty
chapter in the
sadistic.
case of the parrot that witnessed the murder has now been closed.
Glenna Durham faces life in prison at her sentencing at the end of next
Stop
month.
that production.
Jeez.
But I wanted to ask you, bro, as a human being, okay, all right, as a juror, have we come to this? Have we? I mean, come on, who's cross-examining the parrot? Okay, so somebody's attorney has to suck because I'm going to come there with some.
Right? Did they put that on the? They put that on the stand? I don't think so. I think they just used that recording.
You mean the parrot didn't take the stand? The parrot would have taken the stands in the cartoons. I don't know about the
Yeah, the cartoons. I think they just used that video right there as evidence. There's no cross examining a bird.
all right, bro. And we got enough people in the building to go ahead and get this going. And production, whenever you cats are ready, if we can start rolling the Dr. Coney promo, and we'll run like a minute of it, and then we'll start the intro. So, yeah, buddy, as we say. Yeah, buddy.
Successful, and so I do what it takes to be successful. And that is, when I go home, I study and do my work and go to class. Kind of corny stuff. Well, it works.
Diabetic retinopathy, damaged blood vessels in the retina begin to leak fluids and blood. When this fluid leaks, it can cause the macula to swell or thicken. This is called diabetic macular edema, or DME, and it is the most common cause of vision loss for people with diabetes.
Production, can we take that down to the volume, reduce it a little bit, please? We can start this. Appreciate everybody's patience. So today, in the building, we have a noob, a great beta noob, my brother. All right. I'm not responsible for going out and, I'm not responsible for this guy. Came to us as he was. Right? As he said, well, we'll get into it. Top flight student. But he walked that walk. Boy, he walked that walk 10 toes down. Y'all don't want to talk about it. And I won't. But he walked that walk. Anyway, Chicago Southsider. Educated at Lindblom Technical High School. He earned his BS in biology at Beta. You cats may know it as the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I was there. They weren't giving away, degrees and diplomas to anyone, I would say, but definitely not to African Americans from the South Side of Chicago. You had to earn that. And then he went on to earn his MD and his medical degree at Loyola, yeah. Potatoes, but Loyola Strict School of Medicine, and ultimately earned a medical retina fellowship in diabetic retinopathy at Harvard. Buffy, we got the clam chowder. We went to Harvard and Buffy with the clam chowder. All right, he went over there and got her done, right? Okay. We're going to defund. Well, that's another show. That's another show, right? Earned. We did that. Became president of. I don't want to butcher this word. So we'll let him butcher it when he gets in. But long of it is retina specialist, world class, and he is recognized by the top ophthalmologists in the United States. And Self Love, you got anything to add to that?
Great brother, just a great person that's looking to better us and expand the Self Love Nation. It's just, man, solid. Been looking forward to this conversation.
FACTS. So if you all in the chat can give us those electric hands, you click on the chat and then you click in the search and you type hands and then you're gonna get some hands. Type those in there for this brother, right?
Yes,
Self-love.
sir.
You do your thing.
Brother, thank you for taking time to come talk with us and expand the Self Love Nation. Welcome and looking forward to this conversation.
Brother Mills and Smith, man, listen, it's been a pleasure. Looking forward to chopping up with you fellas. Wish we could do this in person. I miss you guys, man. It's been way too long. And let's get to it.
Facts. Everyone's been patient enough, and let's jump into it. And then we have to realize, this brother's on the right coast, so he's in the time zone. And then we got Self Love, he's in the central zone. Then we got myself way out in the pot coast. So, I could sit here 4 or 5 hours, and, you know what I mean? Still have dinner, and so I have to, as I'm rambling, respect people's time. But before we hop into it, as I said, this is Dr. Joseph M. Coney. He's a surgeon. He's he's currently affiliated with the Retina Associates of Cleveland. They're world-renowned experts in medicine and surgical treatment of age-related macular degeneration, which is, I guess the acronym is AMD. Sounds like a church. And then diabetic retinopathy, retinal detachment, flashes and floaters. I got some floaters. Well, I left a couple of floaters in the toilet, but I got some flashers, bro. I do got some flashers I want to talk to you about on the sideline. And if you want to reach them, they're at www.retina-doctors.com. So that's www.retina-doctors.com. So what up, Noop?
Yo, what's up?
All right. So I kind of gave it away in the lead in, but if you can just kind of tell the Self Love Nation where you came up at, and just a time frame, like up until the time you were like age 10, around that time, what decade was that? And then what was it like coming up in it?
A lot of us are brought up from the same, I'm from the South Side, Inglewood is actually the neighborhood. We all know in Chicago, neighborhoods are neighborhoods. Where I'm from, every 4 blocks change. And, you can go from 71st to 74th, you good, but I couldn't cross one street over because that was a whole different territory. So what that really meant is that, it's a tough place to brought up and you kind of pigeonholed into the area that, that you live. But within that area, it's a family. That family was responsible for you, for you coming up. You really are raised by a village, and that became your niche. It became your cluster. Those are people that you play with every day. My upbringing was very similar to everyone else's that, I went to college with. All of our brothers have something in common. It wasn't easy coming up. Most of us didn't have much. I'm from a family of 8, a lot of love. Didn't really know what I didn't have, but I had everything I needed. And that's probably, I think, the key to success in terms of what kept me out of trouble, what kept me out of the streets, what kept me out of the gangs, being caught up. That doesn't stop you from being approached by things, but it definitely kind of get you on the right path, especially when you have a praying mother, and get you involved in different activities. And so, my education wise, it's you went to neighborhood high school, and for me it was Lindblom. And, you know, we all had to take the bus. You know, we all remember the CTA bus in Chicago. Kids don't know about taking the bus these days. But, you know, you gotta come through like 3 different high school territories, and people don't realize what that really meant, coming through Harper, coming through Inglewood, just trying to get to Lindblom. You know, that could be a rough morning, especially doing football games. But, you know, we made it happen. You know, it was what we did. It was part of our culture. But you know, in reality, it was like a neighborhood shopping mall. You know, it's in the middle of various gang territories. And back in the mid 80s and early 90s, people just kind of took what they wanted, you know, and that's kind of how life was. But, you know, we always banded together as a school. I mean, Lindblom has great people, and we bonded together and we did what we had to do, and, you know, we just took care of business. But life was good.
Well, and let me ask you then, as from what you remember growing up, out of 5 neighborhood children on your block or in your 2-block radius, because you know how it goes. Say out of 10 of those, how many of those would you say their dads were present?
You know, probably less than 50%. And if they were present, you know, it's more or less they were around, but maybe not living in a house. I think a lot of us probably knew our parents. I was fortunate. I really had a tight nucleus. So we all was in the same roof. But, you know, we all kind of took care of each other. In my neighborhood, my mom was like the beacon of the neighborhood. You know, our door is never locked. Everybody's always welcome. You know, if your mom wasn't home from school, you know, you had a place in my home. So everybody called my mom grandmother. So, you know, if you didn't have a place to live, you didn't have food to eat, you didn't have any clothes, somehow, by the grace of God, my mother was able to take care of those people on the block. So, you know, if you didn't have something, you know, it was a way to provide. But it was something that the neighborhood provided for. It wasn't all, you know, a male wasn't always there. But we had enough male figures to be role models, at least to teach people the proper way to conduct yourself.
Okay. Yeah, that I kind of wanted to get a sense of just for historical purposes, because you were coming through the South Side. I would say, you know how we're all tethered, but you were coming through, a few years behind us. So, just trying to get a sense of it. I know, like me personally, on my basketball team in high school, we literally had one dad in 4 years to watch a game. One dad in 4 years. So, and you probably know the guy, actually, Anthony Andrews. It was his dad. He's an attorney now. But okay, and any interactions with non-Black people as you were growing up, natives, like for instance, Native Americans, the Jewish or like pink people, and let me say, define for anyone new to the show, white people are ones that are down for us and they don't hate, and pink people are the other ones. And Self Love and I try to be respectful. So, and instead of throwing out worse words, we've come to pink. So, because white, if you define white, a person full of hate, won't resonate or vibrate white. So that being said, were there any how were the interactions with them? Like, were they the teachers? Were they law enforcement? Did they live on the block? Non-Blacks.
So it's interesting how just life is. My mother, my parents integrated that neighborhood, when we came in back 30 years. They were the first Blacks in that whole neighborhood. My brothers and sisters was actually bused into Harper High School. So, that's way, that was a long time ago. So when I came up, it was all Black. And the only interactions I ever had with anyone that did look like me was my teachers. I very seldom had actually probably 70% of my teachers, believe it or not, was actually white until I got to high school. But I didn't have any people of color. I mean, other races outside people of color until I went to college. It was a crazy experience, and I went to college because the first time my first year roommate was from Thailand. And to learn someone from a different culture was just kind of weird. I was sitting in classes with 1,500 people, and a few people looked like me. You guys know how we were so happy to see each other. We were screaming across the yard, and you knew who the freshmen were because they didn't speak. So I go back home and say, "What's up?" And people look at me like I'm crazy because you mind your own business when you're in the hood.
Facts.
But it was, I didn't get that that teaching on how to deal with other people, which I think is really important. And that may be I think that's one thing too that that we need to do as a society too, in terms of, we need to educate ourselves about other people. We always stay within ourselves. And you can find mentorships not with everyone that looks like you. We always try to gauge on people that look like you, which is phenomenal. But sometimes that may not be that person that look like you that have your best interests. And so different doors open up.
We had Brother Beckham. He's a very successful entrepreneur, KB. He said that, and a lot of the folks who gave him his start, who helped get him to where he is now, they were white people, and of course he acknowledges the foundation of his parents and everything that we've done as a community. But so to what you said is right. That's why Self Love and we say vibrate love, because if you're running around vibrating anything but that, you can miss out on some wonderful opportunities in life, because you never know, what type of quote unquote angel that the universe is going to send your way. Who was the first United States president that you can remember?
Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter. Any thoughts of the time of the day, what was coming through the community that you as a young man was hearing about Jimmy Carter that you can remember between playing baseball?
I remember as a kid, I think I was in like first, second grade, finally, understanding, not really understanding about politics, but kind of hearing over, someone's name. I knew there was something going on overseas. I didn't understand the gravitation of it. And I understand that, he lost that second election. I remember that. I remember, I went to the polls with my mom. That was the reason I remember. It's the first time I went to the polls. And, I understood that was a duty as I got older in order to make a vote if you wanted to make change, because she believed in that. Because when she came up as a young person, she wasn't allowed to vote. And that was the first time I went to the polls.
Man, and she didn't, I volunteered here in LA a few times working the polls, and I would see, every other race, they'd be in there and showing their kids literally, how to punch the vote, how to look at the ticket, like showing them that process. And us, not so much. It'd be like, I think we'll tend to say, send the kid to school or to the library, and then I'm going to go vote and come pick you up when I get back. And certain things are important. If kids see better, they be better, and then they know it's a process. We're like little monkeys, monkey see, monkey do. So I just wanted to put that out there, since you brought up that your mom had the foresight, to take you through the process, and you watch her rock her vote. How many times, if any, do you remember hearing gunfire growing up in your community? Let's say Sunday to Monday. No. Monday to Sunday. How many times would you just hear pap, 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 the ghetto symphony in the streets?
I really wish that this was something that was not synonymous with Chicago, growing up on the South Side. As a kid, it probably wasn't as common.
Mm-hmm.
Gunfire it became more or less in the 80s versus, back in the 70s as a kid. But now, even when I go home, I could be home for just a couple of hours and stuff is popping off. It's really, the culture of where we come through has changed, so much. Back in the day, we fought our battles with our fists. It may have been gangs and that sort of thing, but guns wasn't as violent. But drive-bys became much more of an issue back in the mid 80s, I would say. And from the 80s on, especially the 90s, things just kind of escalated. There was a different type of folks coming to the neighborhood. And that's really what I remember most about gun violence. There was a lot of black on black crime back in the mid 80s, and I think gun violence was probably most of that crime.
Well, and great response. You covered the next one. And for anyone who was a late arrival, we are with Dr. Joseph M. Coney, and he is a retina specialist. He's a surgeon, and we're going to unpack, what he does professionally and, how that's serving our community, and not just our community, but, Earth, but our community in particular. He's with the Retina Associates of Cleveland. They're world-renowned experts in medicine and surgical treatment of age-related macular degeneration. They're diabetic and retinopathy, retinal detachment, flashes and floaters, and much, much more. You can catch them at www.retina and then -doctors.com. And so we're with Joseph M. Coney, and just sliding through the chat real quick. Let's see here. I'm proud of you, Joe, my brother-in-law. That's from Joe Maurice. Big ups. Let's see. Zoe Miller said Joe Tough in Inglewood. Your ship, the Paranimal. Do you know who the Paranimal is, your ship?
If I had to,
The Paranimal.
it may be Asa Patterson.
Yeah. That is correct. Yep, Asa Paranimal Patterson. He typed in Dr. Coney. Yes, Brother Patterson. Thanks for your support. Yes, it's Dr. Coney. Tori Wordsmith said, "What city are you in?" Prince Jimmer. Now it's Jamar, right, Self? And I've been saying Jimmer. And he did an ode to the pros. This young man had to. Yeah, he had the Chicago Gonads step up to the plate. Doesn't just claim he's a poet. Actually laid it out there on the lines. You guys can check it out on TATN. So big ups to Prince Jimmer. You showed up, Jamar. He showed up for the doctor. Huh? I haven't seen him in a while, but he shows up for
He's been at every show. He lives right around, and he just his computer was down. He couldn't sign in or something.
Well, big ups though. This is great.
Yeah,
This is
he
what this
checks
is
out every
about.
show.
Yeah, but this is what this is about, man.
Yes,
and big
sir.
ups. Self, get more of these young men in here. And Prince Jamar, let's get more of these young men in here, bro. And you can send me something else for the ode to the pros. We'll post it. All right, if it's dope. Don't send any nonsense. And like, share, subscribe, you guys, please. Like, share, and subscribe. And Self, did you have a question for the doctor real quick before I continue on?
Yeah.
Early life segment. We're in early life.
Sports play any role in your
Great
life?
question. Great question.
Tori, I think that was probably the biggest turning point. Sports and probably Boy Scouts. But sports took up a lot of time. Where I came from, I wasn't really close to the parks, and so I wasn't allowed to go to the parks. We played baseball off the school building, and that's kind of when we played rubber ball. And one year I snuck to the park with the fellas because they were playing baseball for a couple of years, and went to the park, and I wasn't allowed to, and wanted to play for the baseball team. Anyway, to make a long story short, I had never really caught a lead ball before. And the coach asked me what I want to play, and I'm a Cubs fan, a huge Cubs fan. I grew up in Wrigley Field because my dad when he retired was a usher for the ballparks.
Okay.
And I always wanted to play.
Was he an Andy Frame?
Andy Frame.
Was he Andy Frame? Yeah, that's Chicago boy.
Well, the little yellow.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, I went there, wanted to play shortstop, couldn't catch a ball beat me up, went to first base, ball beat me up. So he puts me out in right field where he put all the busters, couldn't judge a ball. He's like, "Son, why don't you come on over here and just go over there and think about what you want to do." He kept looking at me, and I was just throwing the ball around. So then he said, "Come on up here." He's like, "I want you to get batting practice." I'm like, "Well, what's batting practice?" He's like, just throw the ball to the catcher. And man, from that point on, I was just throwing the ball just like I was playing catch, and no one could hit the ball. And so that was my end to baseball. I made the team that day, pitched in the first game, and threw my first no-hitter the first time I played baseball. So
wow,
baseball was something I didn't know that I had, but it was something I was a natural at. And later, I later became a much better baseball player
But what kind of stuff did you have? Were you a tinkerer like Maddox, because you're a Cub fan, or you more with that early Maddox with more of that smoke, or were you late Maddox with that tinkerer and that, you know what I mean? How were you getting your no hits?
Well, I had a knuckle curve. Let's just put it that way. That I can literally throw at the batter and it'll drop on the other side of the plate. I didn't always have the fastest ball, but I had good control. I had good stuff.
So he was one of those Southside ghetto kids. Yeah. We used to play, in the Hyde Park Little League, and they had this weird stuff, throwing their elbows out. Yeah, they had this weird
I was
stuff.
a natural at baseball as well. Like, just I didn't throw a no hitter my first time playing though. I will never say that, but it just came to me very easily.
Yep.
You know what I mean? When I started off, I couldn't do anything, and then as soon as they showed me something, it was over with.
Facts.
Just like,
and so I think that's the most important thing. I was coachable.
Yeah.
I think because I was coachable and didn't have any bad habits, that actually made me a better person. I think that people today aren't very coachable. They think they have great talent, but even with that great talent, you need to harvest that.
Yeah.
And fine tune those skills in order to become a great player. And I think that's another issue with our young people that have all this great talent. They need to find the right people that can mature them.
Facts.
Absolutely. We've got LaFrance. LaFrance said, my favorite uncle. All right. Quentin Massey said, what am I, chopped liver here, LaFrance? And Quentin Massey said, strong role model in our community, always engaged, keeps it real. Love this guy. And he said Shane Bieber throws the knuckle curve. I remember Shane Bieber. Yeah, I remember Shane Bieber. Like he knows his baseball stuff. All right, so you mentioned when you got a sense already of when Shy turned a little more cutthroat, at least in your community you came up in. Who do you credit for teaching you or showing you how to move effectively, at least getting you to the point where you're at Lindblom? And we know that was still kind of shady because, like you said, you had to, make it there and back. But who do you credit for getting you at least that far, bro, the most?
It had to be my mom. Neither of my parents were college educated. My mother could have had a full ride to college, but she stayed behind, and she was the oldest of her siblings, and so she was really a housewife. And she was always on education. Education was the most important thing. You can get all A's and you get that one B, and she was wondering, like, why didn't you get that B? Why can't you do better? So these were the important things that was instilled in me. So she always told me that you need to be twice as good as everyone else. I don't care what you do, but you need to get an education. And on days where I didn't feel like going to school, she said, well, I don't know where you're going, but you're getting up out of here. So, we weren't allowed to just miss school just because we were sick. And that tenacity as a kid, I remember, and it was her drive. My dad was always working. So my mother was the one taking care of the day-to-day business. My dad was the enforcer. So anything any problem that she had a problem with, and when it came to him, it was just, he didn't play because you know what? He worked all day and I'm not dealing with this. You understand? So if mom couldn't handle it and it came to him, then you know what? It was on after that point. So mom did the day-to-day business. So she took care of everything that we needed to do to mature, and stay out of trouble and keep us involved. And most of the involvement actually was around church.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Please keep going. We need more of church.
I was in church probably 5 days a week. Mondays we had things going on. Tuesday we had things going on. Wednesday was prayer meeting. Thursday we had choir rehearsal. Friday we had youth night. Saturday we had.
What were you, Church and God in Christ? Was you sanctified? Was you in the church shaking and stuff?
I grew up in a Pentecostal church, and the clock never worked.
Bro.
My uncle drove the van. We got up about 5 o'clock in the morning just to get to Sunday school, and I didn't get back home till 10 o'clock at night. I mean, it was
Bro, and we always get the most unsophisticated sister to read the announcements. It's like, and I think the pastors and everybody should just be in the back laughing. Like, they be sitting there like, and we got that, we got Immaculate. And I'm sitting there like, why do we do this every day with her? Why don't somebody teach her how to read? Big ups. I feel like I'm digressing. I do want to say this, Dr. Coney. man, love that. If that's not a Zoom background, which I don't believe it is, Capship, Relentless Resurrected Souls. We couldn't celebrate our big, anniversary because of COVID. So, maybe we can just, do it there in that wine cellar. So just throw that out there, Noob. So,
I got something special for you.
Big ups. All right, here we go, Noob. Okay, so Mom, and then we did have some chatter in there. Someone said that Mother Coney laid the foundation. Facts. That was Zoe said Mother Coney didn't play. All right, so we did that as a silverback, and so everyone who knows, we refer to ourselves as silverbacks, and that's 2 words because we want our silverback reparations. Damn it, cut the crap, cut the check. When do we want it? We want it now. Now, as a silverback big homie gorilla, and that's like a wartime gorilla, we want our silverback. What advice would you give to a little homie with limited resources, mentors, maybe didn't have a mom as attentive or with the know-how and the savvy as your mom, so you're from there, bro, and look where you are now. And then you still got cats there, might be hungry, don't know where the meal's coming from, eating that mayonnaise or that mustard sandwich, So talk to them right now, and Self Love and I are going to be quiet. I want you to talk to them because I can't.
That's a loaded question because for everyone's situation is different. But the most important thing that you can do at a very young age, I really think, is just respecting your elders. And that start at home, respecting your mom, respecting your dad. And that respect, I think, gets translated into things you do in life when you go to school. When you're in kindergarten and first grade, once you start respecting your teachers, I think you would start to understand the importance of educational literacy. That because literacy to me means power. It means a foundation that you can build upon to understand things. Our teachers are our first line of defense. And a lot of people, when you ask them as a kid, what do you want to do? They want to be teachers because that's the people they spend the most time with. And without that education, it's really hard to be successful in this world. Not everyone can start a business and be successful in that business. And education for me was a tool to advance myself out of the South Side. I may have always not known what I wanted to do, but I knew what I didn't want to do. And sitting at home on the steps outside, drinking a 40, hanging out with my boys is something I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be that stat. I want to do something better for myself. So I think you have to, for one, get the education. Number 2, work hard, respect people, treat people how you want to be respected. And I really think that if you don't have someone in a home that actually have able to mentor you in something, there's a lot of mentors out there. The good thing about today is that we have the internet. The internet gives us the ability to tag into people and to tag into resources that we probably didn't have as a kid. You don't always have to find someone in your neighborhood that you can tag along with. And I think that's really important. And your mentorship can come in so many different ways. Opportunities, go through doors that, you may be a little uneasy. Opportunities present itself in many different ways. And you have to feel uncomfortable a little bit in order to figure out really what you want to do and travel that road that least traveled. And if you keep doing this, some doors open up. You'll find some mentorship. You'll find some things that you really enjoy, and you just keep building upon that. And for me, that's what it was. It was different opportunities, different doors that opened up. I never said no. If someone wanted me to clean their bathrooms for $1.50, $2, I did it. If I was an accountant, I was working in the accountant area. If I sold Avon, going to door by door, it's having a conversation with that person. But anyone that had an interest in me, I loved it because I really wanted to do something. I never knew what I wanted to do, but everything helped me to figure out what I wanted to do.
Man, no, one of the things we do, this is giving me chills, and I'm sure Self Love is getting it. Like, we sit with cats like you and we have them talk, and they pretty much echo exactly what you said. They exactly what you said, bro. I mean, they'll say it in different ways, and we've had cats from who might have gone through the incarceration system, and they wrap it all up the same way you said it, man. So big ups. And the one thing I might add is something that my mom put on me as a young man early. If you're looking for opportunity, the early bird gets the worm. So and for you kids out there, anybody trying to get a job, you know, if you call a place of employment and they're hiring and they ask you, hey, what time can you show up? And you say, 4 p.m., and then their next question is, are you currently working? And then you're like, no. It's like a red flag. I used to be in hiring, and by the time 4 p.m. comes around, this person who's doing the hiring, he's already talked to a bunch of different people, he or she. They're worn out. They probably already made their mind up, and you have to come in with such an impact. I'm not saying it can't happen that way, but get there early, people. If you want a job, even if there's not a for hire sign, knock on the door, talk to the silverback who may be working there, or the person who may be white. Talk to them, be humble, and tell them that you're looking for opportunity and you're willing to work for it, and it makes a big difference. And you're not showing up at 6 p.m. and you're there before my door opens. So
Look at
just
in that same
go
part.
ahead, bro.
Looking the part is important too. We need to know how to address, how to conduct yourselves in an interview, do your research about where you want to go. So many times kids reach out to me and they want to do things and they have no idea. They just want an opportunity. Well, if you don't know what I do, how can I really help you? I'm a doctor, but do you know I'm an eye doctor? I mean, it's interesting. I even get medical students that come in, their job is to know the surgery. So when they're watching me in surgery, it's more beneficial. If you don't know the structure, you don't know your anatomy, it's going to be hard for us to have that conversation at this level. Man. So at any level, you should understand the people that you're talking to in order to get that particular job, because you're not the only one looking for that job. It's also important too to follow up with interviewers. A lot of times you go and people may get sidetracked. You may not hear from them, but you know what? Give them a call. Be like, what, Mr. Johnson, I was there 2 weeks ago. I interviewed. I just wanted to know the status of my application, and that's okay. Follow up, write letters.
And call them early. Call them early though. Don't call them at 6 p.m. Go ahead, bro.
We've gotten to this culture where texting is kind of where we are. Well, you know what? When you're looking for a job, you got to have a conversation with people.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that conversation is telling people thank you, writing them thank you letters, and following up. And I think that we need to start working with our kids at a younger age, because if we're not, someone else is going to be eating our lunch. Because these other people, they're doing it.
Bro, they're preparing. And so, Self Love and I have been talking about bringing back the Saturday schools. I thought I had a big, brilliant idea. And then, my ancestors and my elders were like, no, we always had those. And you know what I mean? So, anything broken can be repaired, which kind of gets us into our next segment. We want to jump into the More Growth and Development program. And it's just about 4 questions we want to ask you regarding that. Back in the chat, CD said, yes, absolutely. He's your cousin, and you are an awesome role model. Dr. Is that Dobie? I was saying, amen. Team Bell Training said, and don't trip, your fastball had some pop too, when you needed it. Well, you had that freaky, movement, so you didn't need much pop on that fastball, but I know what you're saying.
They came straight, they were looking like...
Yeah, they were stepping back, unless they played for my little league coach, but we don't want to go there. That's boy, you couldn't step back, boy. Hey, you better stand in there. And then we had let's see, Nicole Johnson said, you are a true blessing, Dr. Joe, love you. Quentin Massey said, this SHT is hilarious. The clock never worked at church. They're laughing. So we'll get back into that. We want to jump into the foundation questions real fast. Oh, no, I do want to read Passionate Patricia. And Patricia is actually my mom's name. Passionate Patricia says, Dr. Coney, a phenomenal mentor to my son. You and your wife are loved and appreciated. Hey, big ups, Passionate Patricia. All right, so here we go. Foundation questions. What's your take on reparations, Dr. Coney? What is your take on reparations?
That's a really good question. And, I'm always a person looking forward. And for me, I think that you can wait for something to happen that is not going to happen. We waited how many years to get to just get some justice on someone that, where we've been, unjust from police, brutality since the beginning of time. So part of that, going forward, I think the real question is, what can we do, or what can society do, what can institutions do to help make sure that no one's left behind, particularly Black and brown people. And part of that has to do with getting a fair shake at education. We need to understand the importance of equity, the equity in education, the equity in health. I think that health in general, if you give the right health to Black and brown people, you can change generational wealth. The mortality rates in Blacks is skyrocket. It's absolutely crazy. The areas that we live in, because of redlining, areas we're in, we are financially handicapped because you cannot refinance your home or get the other opportunities that other people would get. We live in, we have these food deserts that we have where you can't get the right foods to get nutrition. If you don't get right nutrition, then how do you get the right education? We live in places which has poor access to transportation. We deal with implicit and explicit bias. We have institutional racism, which keeps Black and brown people down. So if the government wants to do something and make policies, I think they need to have the correct policies to change the issues that we live in. And I think we can forget about the things that they owe us. We owe it to ourselves to become a better person. We owe it to our, we do things, or, we want to blame everybody for all the problems. I'm going to get in trouble here.
Speak, bro. No, speak.
We want to blame everybody else for our problems. And you know what? It's not always white people killing Black people. It's more Black people killing Black people every day. And we have responsibilities to figure out what your action causes you. Not every time a police, comes in, they were in the wrong. Well, how did that situation happen? We have to be able to, have thicker skin and actually walk away from some, have the ability to walk away from some things. But there is a lot of problems we do have from a policy standpoint, no doubt about it. There's, from a medical standpoint, there's plenty of mistrust from physicians. There's a lot of studies that unfortunately the government was behind that use Blacks as studies. We all know about the Tuskegee experiment, and this has really caused us to have bad communication with physicians. And I think that's the reason why from a health standpoint, a lot of us have the issues we have. The social determinants in our own community have really kept us down, but part of that is our mistrust in the healthcare system to don't get help when we need to, especially for Black men. I think Black women at an early age, because they need to get other exams done, they get more comfortable in keeping their annual appointments. But Black men, we don't go to the doctor. Our blood pressure is too high. We go when our back is hurting, you find out you have prostate cancer. I mean, we let things go too long before they're diagnosed. But a lot of that, I think, stems from all of the racial bias that we have to deal with on a daily basis. And then how do you deal with a physician where you just had a problem with someone that doesn't look like you, and now you want to talk to someone that doesn't like you about a medical problem? Do you trust giving that information to someone? If you have depression, do you feel comfortable in telling someone your darkmost secrets in order to actually get better? You have to be able to open up to these people. And if you don't trust those people, and because of all the years that you've been racially
used as a guinea pig. I mean, we can go back to chattel slavery. We were literally used as guinea pigs. But go ahead, Dr. Coney.
But at the end of the day, everyone wants good medicine, but in order to get good medicine, you got to have that confidence that that person is have your best interest.
Correct.
For us, it's about moving forward. We need to, I think personally, forget about all the bad things that that's happened to us and figure out how we can move forward. And I think your platform is actually doing something great. You're trying to reach the urban community that this may be the only way they get their information. They're not looking at CNN and Fox and these sort of things. You bring in real people from places where they're from that look just like them, that by the grace of God, someone took an interest in them and they made it. And you tell them their story to figure out how they can make themselves better. And if every generation keep doing that, you know, in another 10, 15, 20 years, it's a powerful person. What people don't understand is that by 2050, 50% of every American in this country is born to either a Black or Latino household. And that's real. Things are changing. Demographics are changing, and people are afraid that it's happening. Things are more blatant today because they understand that, you know what, they're looking around, man, where's all my white folks at? You know, you can't, if you go to Miami, you know, you go to California, places have changed.
You go to Miami, you could barely find like a American restaurant, so to speak.
You can barely find somebody who just speak English.
Yeah.
I'll just say 2 words: negative birth rate.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we unpacked that pretty much, and big ups on reparations. You know, my motto is, you know, cut the crap, cut the check. You know, cut the crap, cut the check. You know,
My brother's not coming.
We don't need it. We don't need it. Let me say this: we don't need it, but we want it. But when you've repaired the slave masters, when you repaired, you know, the people who own the so-called prisoners of war, when they've been repaired, and that can be justified, you know, cut the crap, cut the check.
So much has been said that can't happen in my lifetime that has.
Literacy. If someone gives you $1 million and you don't have financial literacy, that money's gone after a while. How many pro athletes do we have that are broke today?
Correct.
What's that got to do with them giving us what we owe? I understand what you're saying.
It's worth it for the what do you call that? The public relations. It's worth it, Noop. It's worth it for America to show the world. You're right. Half of us will trick the money off, if not more. But you wouldn't. Tory wouldn't. And many of us wouldn't. Everybody in this chat wouldn't. We would build. Now I can't walk around with my nose up at people, you know, and then this white guilt or the pink guilt, all of that is gone. If they can print up this fiat currency and give people money and give people banks trillions of dollars, then and they can repair again the slave owners and the banks and the corporations for slavery. They can repair us. They can repair us. And see, I've worked as a bill collector my whole life, and as a bill collector, bro, and that's why I know I'm built for this, right? It's about you figure out how you're going to pay me. It's not me figuring out. I can give you some examples. You know, you could tax the big corporations. You could tax the sugar companies. You could tax Monsanto, huge. You can tax them and tell them if you don't like it, get out of this country. And they're going to threaten us and say you're going to lose jobs. And I'm going to say, so what? You know, I'm going to say, so what? You know, we have to start playing chicken with these people. I'm going to get off my soapbox. But, you know, I can give you some suggestions. You can have a bake sale, you know, but get it from these corporations. Get it however you get it and pay our people. And if they trick off the money, God bless them. You know, God bless them. Now I could say when somebody comes and asks me for money, Dr. Coney, and you know, I can look at them up and down and tell them, you need to what? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Right. You need to pull yourself up with your bootstraps. You just had, you know, 500 grand and your beta noob, Bob Johnson, is down for reparations. But this isn't a debate show. This is your show. They're not here for my crap. So any myth or stereotype regarding black men from Chicago, and I said black men from Chicago, that you feel the need or would like to try to clear up right here, because we talked about a lot of gang violence and things of that nature. Any myths, like when you go around and you go through Cleveland and all over the world, because I know you be at first round, first seat, box seats at NBA games and stuff like that, you know, up front, shaking hands with LeBron and all my people like, look at him, he a drug dealer. I know my people would say, he a drug dealer. Who is that? The feds are looking at you, bro. You're sitting there. Y'all think I'm making this up. But anyway, I digress. I digress. But any myth or stereotype about black men from Chicago that you would like to clear up, bro?
All of his black men, and you know, at least that's not what I get when I talk to people. It's just Chicago in general, and maybe they look at me as a black man and maybe have that same look. So I don't really know what comes first, but I interact with people on a daily basis. And when the conversation comes up, I'm from Chicago, they take a step back and be like, well, you guys got problems in Chicago. They always talk about the game. And depending on their political affairs, I remember when, President Obama was in office and, Emmanuel was there, they would just always want to find a political spin, and they just want to say, it's all the Democratic issues they have in Chicago. So the people come from a political standpoint or from a violent standpoint. And you know what? Chicago is one of the best cities in the world, man. I mean, I wouldn't change the way I was brought up for nothing. All the things I didn't have. I mean, it really shaped me to be the person I am. It gave me the thick skin that I needed. It gave me the communication skills that I needed. The friends, the love. I mean, that stuff fosters who you become. And living in those little neighborhoods, I mean, we had so much fun as a kid. I mean, we didn't realize the stuff. I mean, everybody's in the same situation. You may have had somebody on the block that had a ColecoVision a little bit earlier, in television, or Atari earlier. You made it. I mean, I never had none of that stuff. When I got my first bike, I mean, it was like, dude, I watched my bike every day because nothing was going to happen to it. I mean, I knew that was it, and I couldn't get nothing else. But so it bothers me when people say that, because when I come home now and I fellowship, with my family and the brothers, I always have a good time. I mean, the violence is there, but you know what? It's in every major city. It's the urban life that we live, but it's so much. If you look at how many great people that's come out of South Side Chicago, whether they play sports, whether they're part of the music industry, whether they're attorneys, whether they're doctors, teachers. I mean, these are some great folks. And
Michelle Obama. Go ahead. Right.
We have much love to give. I mean, we're no perfect part of we're not a perfect city, but man, it's a great place to be brought up. And I can't think of any other place in the country that has the vibe like Chicago has. So, you know what? I tell them that. I'm like, sometimes they come and all they know is downtown, the Magnificent Mile. Well, it's much more than Magnificent Mile than just seeing that 1 mile of stone. But to go in the neighborhood, get the feel of how the people are brought up. Everyone has a different beat. The music vibe is great. So, it does bother me, but hey, that's what we live. So I miss it, man. I miss it. I miss my family. I miss my friends. I miss you guys. That's special.
Man.
One thing I would say about Chicago cats is that where they come from. They're not wavering. They're not wavering folks. They'll tell you like it is, and it's bond. And if you have any problems, they got your back. And that's what I love about the Chi, and that's what I love about you guys. I know that's what we do for each other.
Right.
Man, this guy is accurate, honest, right? Man, this is crazy. We gotta get you back in the Chi, bro. I mean, I don't want your partners to get all upset. I know you're board certified and on the executive boards, but I mean, move to the next one. What would you like to see us do as urban Black folks in America? What do you think is the most important thing for us to do, to get this pink man's knee off our neck? What do you think we should do first? I heard you mention church and other stuff, but I mean, give it to me.
We're in an informational age right now. I think that you guys are just touching the surface with the ability that you got, just the people that you can reach, and your platform is great. I think this is probably the best way to actually reach people with a good positive message. With that message, though, you have to go out and show action. You need to have at some point an actionary standpoint. This is good, but being in someone's face in the community, I think, is better. That's the only way you learn your skill. You can watch a jump shot, but until you out there playing with somebody that's put your elbow here, you do your crossover here, you don't really get it. You got to feel that body against you. How do you take that next first step? How do you? That's how life is too. That's how you pivot from one place to another. I think that's what we really need. That's what we need to be doing. There's some great organizations out there. My kids were involved in Jack and Jill, and those. There's things that I was always against Jack and Jill. I'm gonna put it out there because as a kid, they didn't want a kid like me. I'm from the South Side, didn't have any money, and I get it. And so I was a little bit pushed off. But once I learned more about the organization, what the organization offers, what it actually done for my kids, what it actually did for the parents, for how the women bonded, how the men bonded, because we need bonds too. Women aren't the only one that can and call their girlfriends up. We have things that we need to get off our chest.
Man.
And how do we deal with certain things? We have issues in our own workforce that we can't solve. Even if you're a business owner, you need to understand how to matriculate certain facets of your business, and there's someone out there that has actually done it for you. So for me, an organization like Jack and Jill was great, and for the kids, it gives them that spring, that board that they can continue to educate themselves on. It's important to get your kids involved in whatever you can. You learn, for me, fraternity was important in learning Robert Rules of Order. All the organizations that I've been on, it comes back to Robert Rules of Order when you're running big companies and organizations and boards. And, I was forced to learn that at a very young age. And it's...
Now, come on, nobody forced you.
Huh?
Nobody forced you, come on. But go ahead, bro.
but you know what? It was an important aspect of my life, which I didn't think was going to be important. And I use it every single day, Right. So these are things I think we need to instill in our kids. My mother listen, we never went out for dinner. When we got some White Castles, man, it was like a great time. And we had great cooks in the house, but man, we had some McDonald's or White Castles a good day. But she made us learn proper how to eat, because in case we ever went out, she didn't want to be embarrassed.
Yes.
And so it's just the knowledge that we need to be passing down to our kids. Our kids today, they don't understand the gravity of where they're going to be once they get adults and what they need to pass on to their kids. And I think it's important for us to give the same, pass that down. And our people that had grandparents in their life, they're a lot different than people that just had parents in their life. Because the grandparents, they won't sugarcoat it. Because they know what life is going to be like.
Man, I'm not laughing. Man, bro. Yes. Man, yes.
Absolutely.
Facts, bro. All facts, man.
Yo, man, this content is the type that we're bringing to the Self Love Nation. Y'all watching now, smash, like, subscribe, hit the bell, share with like minds. We're building. Hit the thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up.
Man, get it to single moms and single parents out there, who can't tap into this. That would be great. I appreciate that, Noop. And then this is the last question for this segment, bro. And it's part of our More Growth and Development program. We just didn't have it added yet, and that's on me. I'm bigger than my excuse, but here we go. What can Black men do to protect our women? And I don't mean that in a chauvinistic way. So let me change that. What can Black men do to protect Black women from being murdered, kidnapped, and sex trafficked at an extraordinary pace when you compare it to, other races?
Yeah, sex trafficking is an issue. Actually, believe it or not, right where I'm from is one of the heaviest sex trafficking areas in the country because all the highways kind of come together. You got 80, 90, 480, you got Canada, So I didn't realize it. My daughter did a project on it and actually educated me to the point where I'm driving one day and she's like, "Oh, that looks like a trap house." I'm like, what's a trap house? So my kids are more woke than I am. But I think that's part of it is education. You have to educate your kids on place to go, not to go. Just be aware of the surroundings the same way we were aware of our surroundings when we were in the hood. You can look around and hey, I shouldn't be here. My kids are brought up in the suburbs. They don't quite understand where they should or should not be. But you know what? They recognize when something's not right. You can't change the mind of a pedophile. These are very sick people. You can't, if someone is motivated to actually do something, they're going to do it. We have a problem with the gun violence in this country. It's not the guns, it's the people, it's the sick-minded people that take that in the wrong way. And these things are going to happen, unfortunately, until even if you have legislation, it's, you got to treat the mind. It's a disease. So when it comes to pedophiles, they're always going to try to find some type of way to have their agenda be. You know what? That's how my mother would say, that's how the devil works. So the best thing you can do is educate your kids, let them understand and let your daughters know that you love them. Sometimes they get caught up because they want to meet somebody they met online, because that may be the first person someone actually show them some affection. They just looking at someone to grab onto. They looking for a male figure that wasn't in the house, and you just show them a little bit of attention. That goes a long way. Next thing you know, they gone someplace. My daughter is like my princess.
This guy's giving all the game for free. Go ahead, bro. Your daughter. Go ahead, bro.
Let our women know, and it's amazing, the whole, African American culture is just an interesting culture. We all come from, and I don't know, because we have this big melting pot. Somewhere in our ancestry, all of us may have this character trait that, we all act a little bit different. But at the crux of it, there's a lot of commonality, and love is that commonality. Our Black women love to be loved, and they love to let them know that we love them. They love touch. They love affection. And you have to give that to them all the time. We may not always want that touch. We may not, we got this thick skin, but they need to be told.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing for our young kids. And this goes for men too. This goes for boys too. But particularly for our young women, you let them know that you love them as much as you can. And if they ever have any problem with no matter whoever, you want to foster their relationship. They can open up to you. My daughter opens up more to my wife because they have a lot more in common. I get it, but she understands if she have a problem, she can give me a call. If she has a medical problem, she'll definitely call me. But if they have any problems, they can call you and talk to you. And so sometimes you have to understand, you need to be that ear for your child, and not always that authoritarian kind of person. You want to be able to talk to your kids when they have issues.
Bro, let me I wanted to kind of go back just a little bit when you were talking about certain etiquette. It is something that's been flashing in my mind, bro. No one's raising these kids, and it's tough, because now if that generation of child never learned, what fork to use, what spoon to use, just certain basic etiquette, right? Then they can't pass it on to their children. And we used to have like cotillions, and one of our guests was talking about a charm school for women, and there's none of that anymore. But that being said, let me just go through the chat real quick. Zoe said, we owe it to ourselves to be better people. CD said, this conversation needs to continue. Thankful to my cousin making this dialogue possible. That's right. He's give back gang. Quentin McCorvey said, great child of God, great husband, and great father. Well, that sounds like a silverback. Great man, great physician, great friend. Wow. Zoe said, take the mic, Joe. Keep talking. Profound words. Quentin said, facts. And so we're proud of Joe, and you owe me a round of golf. Love your friend, Ludgy La Rochelle. We need financial literacy. Quentin said Cleveland has some great flavor too. So that's what's in the chat. And you guys, in the chat, the phone lines will be open shortly. If you have a question, or you can simply type in your question as well. If you have a question for Dr. Coney, the phone number is 424-900-6945. That number is absolutely
troll free.
Trolls get holes. So 424-900-6945. You can text me your question, or you can type your question right in the chat, or you can call in and we can get you on speaker, and you can have a question for this brother. Question everything. and don't answer questions. So just because you ask a question doesn't mean he's going to answer it. So that being said, yeah, buddy.
Yep. It's halftime. So, everybody, we're gonna take a slight break. We got a couple of videos that we want you to check out. We're gonna stretch our legs. Got a couple of videos, E.C. Weston, and then the Science of Self. Yeah. And more plugs. And then we're going to get back at y'all. It's a great situation.
It should be mouthpiece included. Which one is this the 21st?
Yeah. Hold on. I think that's actually what's that's not on my list, but that's what's actually loaded up.
Sweet. It's halftime. Like, share, subscribe.
I had this idea for a show, rotating silverbacks with varying sports point of view. We'll talk politics. I thought I'd call it Mouthpiece Included. Guard your grills, knuckle up.
Directly into one of the very strong sentiments I have about a situation that we all know that happened back in, what was it, 92? And we in our community, us silverbacks, we have a tendency, and the people around us, we have a tendency of believing just because a person is rich, famous, and black, that they don't commit crime.
So no one truly cared if Bill Clinton was actually guilty of what they attempted to charge him with, because he got impeached in the House and then he got saved in the Senate like Trump. But at the end of the day, that actually opened up the country and the world to the age of information.
My problem with this whole thing is they didn't start coming up with all this stuff. It sounds like it's an attack on Watson. All this stuff, I mean, if he was doing this stuff, it's ironic that all of a sudden when he started saying he's not going to play for Houston.
Right, it's the society we live in. Everything's about sex, everything's about getting sex, everything is about being sexual. So for them to throw these things at athletes and project them as predators, I don't think it's fair, but it's the society we live in, unfortunately. ESPN,
yeah. You want to do the draft as a topic?
Yeah.
The slavery of the draft, how they measure
slave draft.
yeah, all right, I like that.
The Honorable Minister Louis H. Farrakhan.
When we were in a different kind of slave situation.
Fast, because you know what? If you draft a guy who doesn't fit the ideal profile and you're wrong, we are going to come down on you. Your owner is going to come down on you, and GMs don't like that. That's how you get fired. Your owner is going to come down on you, and GMs don't like that. That's how you get fired.
White folk would put us on the auction block.
The Arizona Cardinals.
Come by and squeeze your buttocks. Look at you. This is a strong specimen. How much for this one? I'll buy it. And we got bought and sold just like that. Well, that's what you do before in sports.
I'm going to give you 5 yards.
You run up and down the field. You show them how swift you are, how clever you are. And they're sitting there watching you, timing you.
And look at them now. Running easy.
I get him. I'm drafting him. First round.
candy crawl to freedom through 500 yards of shit-smelling foulness I can't even imagine. Or maybe I just don't want to. 500 yards. That's the length of 5 football fields. Just shy of half a mile.
That's it.
How they measure your butt up, your thighs.
Your big thighs.
And how they call the executive and how they call you the executive your owner.
Yeah, I don't know. My owner don't like this.
First round. How much money? You can't start him off too big, but he ain't never had a couple of friends. So when you tell him he can get a couple of million, sign me today. And then he introduces you to his brother, who owns the jewel shop. I mean, I want you to just practice this. When you get some money in your hand, just squeeze it. This is mine, you can't have it. This is mine, you can't take it. Then go downtown and see how disciplined you can be.
Just because you own the company don't mean you my owner.
Thursday, 9 p.m. Central. Bring your mouthpiece. Guard your good and knuckle up.
I smoked a pound of that good shit. Any projects is why I'm bound on that hood shit. Man, I just dislike those that don't live life. Hating cause I came up and a nigga did right. No food in the house, I know what that feels like. Riding the bus, going to work, right. I know you feel tripe. This
Love you
life
for this
ain't
one,
meant
bro.
for us to be stressed out. No.
Welcome back.
Put your best out and step out. Like you got no care in the
Self
world.
Luv Show.
That shit bottled in, share with your girl.
We're having a great conversation with our brother, man, Joseph Coney. He's been dropping bombs and jewels, expanding the Self Love Nation as we do, show by show. Welcome, brother.
Hey, brother Coney, this is Trife Mac. He sat with us, man. He was magnanimous as well, man. He came up, in All Gale Gardens, you know, and so y'all check him out. It's Trife, TRIFEMACK. You know, he's a grown man, and this is like grown man stuff, and it's kind of what you were talking about, bro. You know, being from Chicago, and you know, it's not an arrogance. He's just saying, if I can make it here, I can make it anywhere.
Period.
You know, so for anyone who doesn't know or who may have joined late, we appreciate all your support. We are here with my brother, Greater Beta Noop, Dr. Joseph M. Coney, M like money. And he is a board certified surgeon, Retina Associates of Cleveland. And they are world-renowned experts in medical and surgical treatment. I mean, on some real talk, he's humble, but he's truly one of the best trained. I mean, 15 years of schooling. We want to talk about the the experience, you know, behind that. So that's what we're going to start unpacking. Diabetic retinopathy. You know, these are words, you know, I feel like I'm watching like South Park and, you know, they run that thing, diabetic retinopathy. You know, we're going to get into that. Retinal detachment, flashes and flow, and much, much more. On some real talk, we're going to have them, you know, get into that. So if you need help, you can check it out at www. If you know someone who may need some good work in this field. www.retina-doctors.com. This brother was magnanimous enough, to give us some of his time. He probably got 2-3 surgery scheduled tomorrow, what have you. You know what I mean? I'll be sitting here on YouTube looking at conspiracy theorists. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna get this we're gonna get this show going, the second half, and we appreciate you guys out there. The second half runs quicker, always. So here we go. We're gonna jump into the professional life, how this brother stuffs his money bag, so to speak. There's a lot of people all over the internet, with stacks of money and stuff like that, and they want to get money and money. You gotta get money, you get money. You can get money out here. You can get money. I mean, that's fine. Yes, you do have to get money. That's fundamental. So we're gonna talk about that. So, Dr. Coney, define ophthalmology. Am I saying that right?
Ophthalmology, yes.
Okay, define ophthalmology, its origin, and the purpose of it.
So ophthalmology is the study of eyes, and I don't know the origin of ophthalmology. That's a good question. I'm not a historian, but I definitely know how to fix it. And what I do, retina surgery is something fairly new that the trend started in the 70s, and by a guy by the name of Dr. Markheimer. And we developed different techniques in order to enter the back of the eye, which is the lining of the retina. And so what I do is I put retinas back together. How I describe the retina or the eye is the film of a camera. The lens of the camera is like the front part, it's like the cornea, and you need the cornea. I'm sorry, you need the lens in the camera. You need the film in the camera to work in order to get a good image. Another part of imagery is the processing center, right? It's your brain, or where you take your film. We're talking about the old film. People don't know what cameras, they don't know what films are these days.
Right.
But back in the day, we had to take our film to Walgreens, either develop and maybe have 4 good pictures out of 20. It was just not great. And now
Right.
we have great processors through our phones. But the retina, every medical problem that affects your body affects the retina. So it is probably the most difficult organ in anything that you have in your body. From high blood pressure to diabetes to cholesterol, to all the inflammatory problems, joint problems, everything affects the eye in some type of way. There's 9 different specialties just for the eye. And that's why it's so complicated. I'm on the surgical side. I have a specialty in diabetes. Diabetes, unfortunately, is the leading cause of blindness. And I enjoy diabetes because it affects people that look like me. That was the way that I can communicate with people, because I can say, hey, you know what? This disease affects you and I at a greater rate. And it buys equity into why I have an interest in them. I'm also specialized training in trauma. So gunshot wounds, stab wounds, putting retina back together, complicated surgeries is kind of what I do. But that started in the 70s. And right now we have the ability to make little small incisions without any sutures while patients are awake and put their retinas back together. The technology we have is really, really smooth and phenomenal, where patients don't even realize they had surgery, even if it's 2 or 3 hours. So the trade it's a trade like everything else. It's like the vocational trades that you learn. Some people are speech pathologists, some people are phlebotomists, and all these trades are good. And I don't care what your trade is, in order to be good at your trade, you need to put the time in. You need to have at least a good 1,000 hours before you become good at what you do. So if you're a plumber, if you're an electrician, if you're a custodian, all these things are important to learn your trade. If you're a basketball player, hitting those free throws is part of your repertoire. And so those 15 years I put in to learn my repertoire, that's how long it takes me to become efficient. I probably done over 10,000 surgeries and in my lifetime.
Wow.
And it's busy days. I now train people around the world. I go to Haiti every year to train. This is an interesting thing. Part of this is giving back too, right? We haven't talked about giving back, but I think that for what I do, and anyone that has made it from the South Side of Chicago or any place else, part of what we need to be doing is giving back to our community. We didn't mention it earlier, but we need to do that. And it doesn't always have to be in your own community, but it can be on a more more global level.
Mhm.
So I do have we have a mission of treating Haitian surgeons, because about 5 years ago there were no trained retina surgeons in Haiti, not one. Haiti has about 3 million people, and everyone was going blind from diabetes.
Wow.
So myself and actually a guy from Chicago, he was actually the person that brought me in. He and I were the first two people. We trained the first ophthalmologist to do retina surgery in Haiti.
Big ups.
Huge.
Man, big ups, bro.
Salute.
We train him the same way we train folks here. We got, some of our buddies here that go down, and I'm looking for maybe 12 retina specialists that can give 1 week at their time a year of income to go and give a work. And I think we can do this in different parts of the world where there are underserved people that don't have adequate medicine. And so that's been my passion for like the past 5 or 6 years. We gotta, you gotta really teach people how to fish. You understand?
Thanks.
You gotta teach them that trade. And this has to do with all of us. If when you are a teacher, for example, and you have that apprentice, showing you how do you teach people how to give that speech, how do you write the extemporaneous speech, how do you teach someone how to do duct work? You have to be hands-on. I could train you to how to become a retina specialist. It's what I do. So that's what
I think you're saying I wouldn't know any of the science or the theory behind it, but you can show me what to do after about 1,000 surgeries. Right.
What I do.
I need you to analyze what the problem is and what's going on. But go ahead, bro. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm thinking about what he's saying,
No, I'm just saying whatever your stuff is.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I'm not doing surgery out there.
Hey, he's like scalpel. I'm like blunt. You know what I mean? All right, go ahead, Doc. My bad.
But
we digress.
Whatever your specialty is, giving back, finding people that have that interest, shadowing you. For our young kids, I think exposure is the key. The reason why we don't get people doing certain things is because they were never exposed to it. I was never exposed to a doctor, particularly even a Black doctor, when I was coming up. My first time I saw a doctor is when I was in a hospital. And I'm like, wow, this is something pretty cool. But I never thought I can do it because I never saw someone that looked like me.
If we see better, we'll be better. Go ahead.
When you saw the first Black president, for some people, they're like, wow, I can become president. We now have we have a vice president that's a woman. Now there's people saying, you know what, I can actually do that. So when I get Black kids and they want to come shadow me, that's an opportunity for me to give back. And I think it's important.
Well, it's just, you said two things that were timely when you talked about, first of all, we haven't really, gotten into the kind of like, giving back and big ups, bro, to you and what you cats are doing in Haiti. If there's, first off, how can a doctor contact you if they want to work with you and do the Haiti thing with you?
Well, you have the email to the practice, but I'm okay with you sharing my personal email as well to the chat. That's okay.
All right, facts. So I'll drop it in the comments, and then also I'm at 424-900-6945 as well. If there's any doctor, anybody out there who knows a doctor who may be interested. And you're going to feel real good. You're going to feel really good about doing something, great. That's incredible that there's an island full of people in the world and there's no one that does what you do. Well, now there is, thanks to you.
Look just like you, by the way.
That's crazy.
These people, it's amazing. You don't speak their language. You don't understand their culture. But guess what? A smile, a hug, a tear is universal. And that's the love they give you. Here, people are diabetic here. People have bad disease here for a reason. Most of them are non-compliant. Right. Those people in Haiti are going blind because there's no medicines. 3 times I was there, the hospital was closed because they didn't have resources. It's a whole different thing. It's a country that has been left for nothing because they don't have anything to offer. And it's a political issue. We all know that. And it's a shame. But there are Black people in the world that are going blind. that are
Wow. Especially in this area of the world, they were the first one to stand up and win. And it set off a bunch of stuff in the United States as well.
I've been all over the world. I've never seen poverty like this before.
Yeah, and
It's
you
the
know,
reason.
Dr. Coney, Quentin said learn to fish, and he had typed that in before you said something about that. And I thought that was ironic. And then you started talking about us talking about, kind of giving back to our community. And so there was a question in the chat from CD, and I believe CD is a doctor. He said, Dr. Coney, how can we make mentorship programs available for our youth in Chicago?
Well, tell Dr. CD, I know who that is. Tell her that she's doing it herself because she's doing some great things. She got her own projects kind of going on, which is good. I think what she's doing is, basically making yourself available, making them accessible. Don't tell people no. Don't put people down. Encourage people. And encouragement goes a long way. And I think that we have so many. We always, microaggressions is we always look at microaggressions and maybe from a black and white issue, but we give our own people microaggressions. We have to be aware of how we say things, what our gestures are to people. We can't be putting people down. My mother said, if you had nothing good to say, don't say it at all.
Don't say nothing at all.
If you're going to be a mentor, sometimes you got to put your hand around their shoulder and be like, you know what, that's okay. No one's perfect. Let's go through this again. How can we make this better? And you know what? Making mistakes is okay. If you don't make mistakes, how do you know how to get out of a problem? We just don't want you to keep making mistakes. As a physician, I'm not going to tell you I don't make mistakes. I'm not perfect. I can't walk on water. But I try to learn from my mistakes. I try to correct my mistakes. And when I do have a mistake, I let a person know, you know what, Mrs. Johnson, this did not go the way that I planned it to go. Because guess what? When you do surgery, you open up a can of worms that you can't control sometimes. It's an unhealthy organ. And your job is, for one, do no harm and do the best you can do. But some things are out of your control. God is in control of everything that you do. But when things are not where it should be, you humble yourself and you tell that person, you know what? I'm sorry, things, your vision is not going to be the same. Unfortunately, people, you lose loved ones on the table. Both of my kids are interested in medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them they don't pick and choose who lives or die. It's your job to do ethical things and make the right decision. At the end of the day, people will die.
How do you think, I don't know if you've lost a lot of people coming up, in Chicago, but how do you deal with it, bro? Is there some training that you're getting, like in medical school? The fact that you can sit there and have a conversation with a person and then, not by any fault of your own, like I have a car at the mechanic and they're looking at it. And then when they open it up, they see, oh, well, there's a lot more going on here than we could have seen, and then that person's not there anymore. Like, how do you process that? And I've asked my ship Kier this because, he's an emergency room physician. So any tips for any med school students or anybody out there?
It's really hard to actually learn how to separate that. And it's really important as a physician, you can be sympathetic, but you can't be empathetic. And then you don't get caught up in everything. And you have to understand what the goals are. You have to understand what your capabilities are. Now, there are people, because I'm an ophthalmologist, I treat them for years. And I sometimes I treat the husband, the wife, the kids, the grandmother, the whole family. And they're like family because I see them more. And it hurts me when they die.
Yeah.
My average patient is 82. I go home, every day I go to work, I sign cards to all the families that passed. And I know every last one of them.
Yeah.
But you learn how to get through it. If I have a problem, if someone dies on my table and I'm in surgery, I got to go perform surgery on that next person. Yeah. I got to put that in the back of my mind, get back in the saddle and keep moving on. And that's a hard thing to actually learn how to do. And I can't tell you how I learned how to do it, but over the years, that's what it comes to. It's not you're sensitive about it, but you got to keep moving. And you can't let it affect you because you know what? You're only good as your last patient.
Yes.
You're only good as your last surgeon. I can't miss a free throw. There's no such thing as having a bad day where I come from. If you're having a bad day, people lose their vision. You have a bad day, you're a doctor, people die.
I say the same thing about cops, and you have to pay extortionate amount of money, for what do you call that, malpractice insurance. And I feel like 12 should be paying extortionate amount of money for malpractice insurance as well, because they can't make mistakes either. But great point, bro. Great point, and that's another show. So we're gonna stick to topic. What advice for a young silverback that may be interested in becoming a surgeon in general, but more specifically doing what you do? So this is probably going to be someone in medical school or pre-med, and they're looking at you. And so, what advice would you have for that?
Well, you know what? I'm going to give them advice that no one told me, and this is the problem with some of our Black kids not going into medicine or some of the more competitive things, engineering, just how you pick schools. When I left Lindblom, for all the things that Lindblom gave me, they really was pushing me to go to a historically Black school, not because it was a great school, but because they didn't think that I could matriculate into a predominantly white school. Okay, I was scheduled to go to Morehouse because they didn't think I could do it any place else. So, fast forward, I ended up going to Illinois, did extremely well at Illinois, got straight A's for the first, 2.5 years I was at Illinois. You guys know there's a 5-0 scale. Illinois,
big ups. Illinois wasn't giving out A's to no Black man from Inglewood. I mean, no, I'm just
anywhere.
But you guys also at Illinois too. When you had to go pick your classes, you met with graduate people that try to help you pick your classes. Then you go to Armory and you do whatever. So every time I was, I went in as an architectural major. Okay, that didn't last very long because I couldn't stay awake. But during that whole course of that, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with life, I was leaning toward pre-med. And the whole time she's telling me I had a 5.0 GPA, but yet she's telling me I didn't have what it took to actually become a doctor.
Who was telling you that?
My graduate advisor.
Wow, your GA, yeah, grad advisor. Wow.
I had to get rid of my first GA.
Was she a Karen?
Was she a Karen?
Was she pink or?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Anyway, make a long story short, every time she, I was in LAS, you got to check the little boxes, things you got to take. I would meet up with, people I had been studying with, taking sciences, and I would just take the same classes they were taking. So fast forward this 3-year, I'm in my junior year, the dean calls me. I got 75 undeclared major. She was like, you need to choose a major because we can't keep you in LAS without a major. So I chose biology. She said, why biology? I said, I'm thinking about medical school. She endowed me because you know what? She looked like me. You know who she was. She looked like me. She endorsed that. But when I got into medical school, I was even told I couldn't be an ophthalmologist.
Wait, you talking about Dean Hodges?
Yes.
Yeah, that was my boy, Dean Hodges, boy. I wouldn't have been there as long. Hey, big ups to Dean Hodges. I don't know what she's doing, but if you're out there and her husband, I think, was an alpha, but go ahead, bro. Dean Hodges, bro. Big ups, but go ahead, bro.
He was the only person that told me, fine, but everyone else down the line, med school wasn't in my future. When I got into one medical school, by the way, I interviewed, I sent out like 30 applications, got 15 interviews. I was waitlisted on 6, which means that I did not get to medical school. And part of what I did to enrich myself is I got involved in in CHAMPS program. It's in Chicago Area Health Career Programs. I definitely recommend people to look at that program. It still exists. It's at IIT, and they pair you up with physicians. One person experiment was actually Dr. Derek West's dad. He's an orthopedic surgeon. I was at Michael Reese with him working same-day surgery, but also
really?
Program at Chicago Medical School where I followed medical students for a whole day. Fast forward that 3 years later when I was applying to medical school, and that's what Brother West also was. He was a first year medical student there. The dean of the school calls me up. She had just got the job as the dean at Loyola as she moved from the dean of CMS, and she remembered my name. She calls me up 6 weeks before classes started, and she was like, Joe, this is, so-and-so. If you don't remember who I am, I remember you. You were always a great student. And if you're not committed to a medical class, I would love to have you at Loyola.
Oh, wait,
I went in the bathroom and cried like a baby.
Because Well, no, let me go back. So you're a good student, and it's competitive to get into medical school.
4.8 GPA Illinois. So that's
Man, in biology, right? Because a lot of those people were studying, basket weaving and coming out with a 5.0 and then going to med school and getting in. But here's my thing. So let's just unpack this just a little. So you didn't give up. People were discouraging you. You didn't give up. You went into the CHAMPS program. What did you say that's an acronym for?
Chicago Area Health and Career Programs.
So it's still in existence. So if there's anybody out there, in that situation, let's get there. And so through CHAMPS, you met an instructor at the Chicago Medical School. You were doing some walkarounds there.
She was the dean at CMS, Chicago.
Okay. What's her name? Are you prepared to give that out?
LaDonna Nordstrom.
And she sounds like she would have been white.
She is.
Big ups. So you were talking earlier about things that your mom, how she raised you, certain qualities and foundations. And obviously you were putting that forth, not to mention some things Tori might have, drilled in you, voluntarily when you were being made Greater Beta Nu. So you were putting forth all of these things. She's seeing it. You don't know she's going to become the dean and none of that. You're just working your craft and putting your best foot forward and not giving up. She gets blessed, becomes the dean somewhere, remembers you, and that's how you got your opportunity for med school. Is that right?
That's how God works.
Wow.
Facts.
He puts people in your life for a reason.
And she remembered you and called you.
Yep.
Big ups.
Again,
I gotta give her. No, I got to give her big ups, bro. I got to give her real big ups. And this is, yeah, man, that's wow. That's big ups, man. That's big ups. Cause I know a lot of us who just, I'm not gonna, well, this is not that kind of show. All right. Big ups, bro. So in another interview, I think I saw you on, you indicated that, being Black, looking like you in your professional circle, you're essentially like a unicorn, like you're a rarity in board meetings and things like that. Explain why you said that it feels good to you when you occasionally enter a room and you see a cat, in a doctor's jacket and it's Kier, or Dr. West. Explain to me what that is. I've heard other brothers say it. You hold your thought. You remember the Noop who went in front of Congress, KK.
Mike
Mack. Yes. He explained this whole thing too. When he would see other people at that level. So go ahead, bro. In these board meetings. So what is that? What is that? Talk to me.
It's the same way when you're in Illinois and you see another Black person. I mean, it's a rarity. Blacks make up 13% of our country. And then when you factor in Latinos, I mean, we're about 45%, minorities right now in this country. But in reality, when it comes to medicine, it's less than 5%, which are African Americans, which are physicians. And when you look at ophthalmology in general, it gets much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In retina, there's only probably about 40 Black retina specialists in the whole country. And up until recently, I was the only Black retina surgeon in Ohio. Now I got two of my good buddies here.
That's bananas in 2021. Go ahead though. This is bananas.
But you get used to it. I mean, I was the only Black male in my medical class out of 160 people. So you build up that thicker skin early on. You get to learn things. And the point I'm trying to make about the young kids is that the advice I give them is don't never let someone tell them they can't do something. Because at every level of my career, I've been told I can't do something. And when I see those other people in that room, I know they went through some things.
Mm-hmm.
We can't wait till there's a break before we can bump into each other if we don't know each other. Whether it's in the men's room, whether it's a breakout session, whether it's walking, we get a nod to each other. It's that bond you have because it's kind of like fraternity. There's something you went through, you can relate. No, we went through something that we deserve to be at that table. And early on, when I was invited to be on all these boards and all these things that I do now, which I appreciate that I'm doing, it's hard to really find your voice. And I would tell people now that if they're invited to do something and be a part of something, they're there for a reason. And it's okay to speak out.
Period.
I stutter. Everyone knows that. I talk very fast, and that's the reason why I talk fast. So I was
Oh,
always.
come on. All we did was encourage you when you were pledging
Hey,
with that
man.
impediment you had.
Hey, man.
And
Come on, Self. Especially me. I was one of his biggest encouragers.
Hey,
I mean, come on.
He has not stuttered one time.
I know. I was gonna, but I'm glad he brought it up. But
yeah. But I'm like, man, just saying,
But it's always,
kick ass, get results. But go ahead, Rose.
It's always in the back of my mind. But you
Still
have to feel comfortable because you want to make sure that people respect you for who you are. And when you're in this room, you see people on their phones when you're talking. They're looking out the window. You understand? So you have to spit knowledge to them so they understand that, you know what, I know just as much as you do, if not more.
Yeah.
And it may take some time before people to realize who you are. But that's all of us. When we walk in the room, we may not be given that same look that everyone else gets. But when you open your mouth, you are prepared. It's like baseball. When your number is called, you got to go out there and produce. You may be the starting person after that. But you got to be ready when your number is called. And when you get that opportunity, I would tell people, embrace it. Make the connections. That's the time you facilitate that mentorship. You follow up with people. We don't follow up. I mean, when you're sitting next to that CEO of a company, get his card. Give them. They will remember you. I mean, I sat next to CEOs of Fortune, 500 companies all the time. And I didn't realize what that conversation meant. The first time I realized that you should take everyone serious, I had an internship at Dow Chemical. And you know how at Illinois, you give your resume to OMSA and someone calls you up. Well, Dow Chemical called me up. I had no idea who Dow Chemical was. I accepted the job on the fly. Actually, the application was waiting for me at the airport. That's how good it was.
Wow.
And I'm sitting on the plane and I'm studying for my MCATs. And this guy was telling me, why am I going to Midland, Michigan? I'm like, yeah, so they said some company I'm having an internship with, yada, yada, not knowing what I'm doing. And he listened to me. And when we were getting off, he was like, he's like, Joe, you should be really happy you coming to Dow. I'm the vice president, yada, 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 yada.
Wow.
He was like, you're working in the #1 lab in the world. And I realized at that point, you know what? You take everybody serious. You never know who you're not talking to.
Wow.
You take those opportunities, you embrace them, okay? And it's okay to have that discussion with someone, but you be respectful of the things you're doing in your life and respectful of the person you sit next to.
Yeah, you act like the way you were raised. Bro, as we get towards the end of this, because, in deference to your time, I did want to ask you this earlier, and somehow I missed it. You and I, your mom's name is Patricia. My mom's name is Patricia. I lost my beloved niece, rest in peace, Kasha Nicole. When you lost your beloved niece, how old were you?
So I lost a niece when I was a freshman at Lindblom.
Okay.
A real difficult time, not just for me, but the whole family.
Of course.
And she died of something that we all come in contact with, chickenpox.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Chickenpox. I mean, but instead of her chickenpox coming out, and her mom, I heard you mention her name earlier, is actually on this call.
Oh, okay. Condolences.
Her instead of her chickenpox coming out, they actually went in and they infested her whole body. I understand now what went on, but at that time, I didn't quite understand how this could happen to someone. How could someone have a fever of 120? How could someone have seizures? How could someone go into a coma? How could someone go into multiple system organ failure? All these things, and seeing someone all in all these tubes, I couldn't really understand. But eventually we had to take her off life support because life was not sustainable. You understand? And I became angry. I became angry with God, became angry with just people. And you have to really figure out how to get through with that, because I grew up with these, with my niece. I grew up,
Man.
Her mother was, although she's my sister's daughter, we grew up all, we hung out together all summer. So it's like, we're like, brothers and sisters, not just nieces and nephews. And, she's older than I am. So I have older siblings. But to make a long story short, that was the first thing that made me start to get interested in science, because I wanted to understand things a little better. My thought process is when you came in contact with a physician, their job as a kid was to make you better. And I couldn't understand how this could happen. And I started to take science a little more serious.
Yeah, for something, as common as chickenpox, I hear you. And I remember hearing growing up in those times that could happen. And again, may she rest in peace. You all have an angel, another guardian angel. And, I don't want to get too esoteric. The reason I brought that up, Noop, was for this reason. And I'm glad you said that, you became angry with God. And I heard you say that before. And then, and so you went towards science. So if God was listening to us right now and can hear you right now, because that's kind of like a Job parable, not to get too biblical, but you became angry at God, and you're grown now. So if God was listening and can hear us right now, like, what would you say to God?
I'm much more wise and mature now. God doesn't make any mistakes. And so I can rest with whatever mistakes I can rest with whatever decisions that he makes. I don't have to always understand them. I don't always have to accept them, but I do acknowledge them. It's like our parents. So why are our parents taken away from us? Why does parents lose their kids? We don't always have these answers, but he's going to call all of us home. We're all on borrowed time. That's why we should embrace each other as much as we can, because you know what? We used to have a saying back in the hood, I just had a loss of thought. But, I see you later, right? But, gone today, gone tomorrow.
Same day you here, same day you gone.
You're gone today. Today, people during COVID, I had so many patients had gotten sick. They went to the hospital. They never came back home. That was the last time their family saw that. I mean, we always thought we were dying dignity, right? I mean, people are dying alone.
Nope.
And this past year, if people haven't quite understand what's kind of going on, this is an awakening.
Nope. That Dr. Conrad's mom, died alone because it was right at that panic, with the panic of the pandemic, bro.
And I'm promoting. I'm saying that like a lot of people are dying because they are alone.
Yeah.
They're not getting the vibration of the love.
Right. And the people that's there, like, I spent the night with my grandmother in her last days. I stayed with her until she, transitioned. You know what I mean? Like, they're not getting any of that. Like, and I think some of the vibration of just us being there or someone that cares and loves you, will ease the whole transition. And sometimes people ain't even gotta leave.
Yeah, but they don't have to be there. And I've seen studies on this. It's all good. It's more comforting for us. The creator is a gentle creator, and you'll get a projection. You'll get whatever it is. You'll have ancestors there with you. I've heard doctors testify this, that these people will be sitting there talking to a child or someone who left before. So, I mean, I hear you, Self, but God has got us all, and that's one thing we have to understand. And Dr. Coney, I'm not, God, I'm speculating, and everything is.
We're in complete agreement because
Yes, sir.
That's why they're leaving.
Yes, sir.
It's not someone there holding them.
Yes, sir.
Back.
And everything is for a reason, Dr. Coney. And the reason I brought up your beloved niece, could be as simple as, you said that motivated you to get into science and to learn how to save lives. And, you're saving lives, Nope. And then also it could be about the Haiti Project. Who knows where this leads? Like, you could be making like history. And if this all came, from your beloved niece, bro, roll with that, and that's what, how the spirit is moving me. And that's, the only reason, I brought that up, brother. So, big ups to you. Cause big ups to you, man. A lot of people don't roll like that, man. They'll use that as an excuse to start smoking and drinking and put needles in their arms. And I'm not judging anyone, and you went about that a different way. So, big ups to you.
I would say one thing that motivates me is when I have adversary, some type of, some type of aversion to something, something's not going right. When someone tells me I can't do something, someone doubts me, those things motivate me. I don't know. I always try to I don't let the negative stuff bother me. And you can't, because the world is full of negative. I mean, it's when you're at the top of your game, it's only one way for you to go down. And someone's always there throwing darts at you, my brother. I mean, it's just how it is. When you're that top team in the league, everybody's coming after you.
Of course, as they should.
You're the top person in your profession, is exactly the same. They're waiting for you to mess up some kind of way.
Facts. As I'm coming after the top people on YouTube. Dr. Coney, are there any myths about you or anything that you may have done, that, personally that, you want to clear up? I mean, a lot of people pass on this, but anything that you want to clear up, any myths about you that people may think, he's uppity or he's this and that,
I don't know. I'm an easygoing guy. I wear my heart on my sleeve. You get what you get. I don't try to front. I'm comfortable. When you get to a certain level, you become comfortable in who you are. And that's kind of where I don't need anything else in life. I got my family. I got my kids. I don't really need nothing else. I got great friends. And that's what it's about to me. It's not about what I got or anything else, because with the snap of a finger, it's gone. Your health is important. Your mind is important. When you leave this earth, you're not taking nothing. You're not taking nothing with you. You're coming in the same way you came here with.
A quote I came up with, Noop, is that, to a poor person, and I'm talking financially poor, right? When you have nothing. To a poor person, money appears to be everything. And then once you have money in the bag, money appears to be nothing, right? And, I've heard Oprah Winfrey say it and Michael Jordan say it, like, you can only buy so many TVs and homes and bottle of wine. But at some point, the only joy you're getting is what you're doing to help other people, with that cash. Meaning your family, don't get me wrong. And of course, Haiti and things like that. So, big ups to you. What advice would you give to your 9-year-old self if Self Love and I have a time machine and you see yourself running around Inglewood? And we're not going to accept the lame answer. I wouldn't change a thing. It's a cop out. It's lazy. And I know you wouldn't do it because you've been upfront. So we're not going to accept that. So I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you, even if it was, bet on the 2018 Cubs, whoever won the World Series. What advice would you give your 9-year-old self?
Well, my kids will tell you I'm harder than them, and they're great kids, right? So I'm it's the same love I give my kids, and it's a whole lot. But they're constantly working on their trade, depending on where they are in their life. If it's in sports, if it's in dance, if it's their education, in music. I mean, you work in your trade, and till you know it forwards and backwards. I mean, when you're studying, my kids know this too. I don't want you to just read the textbook that your teacher want you to read. You need to read around that area, because that's what separates, the men from the boys. And I'm using it as a general term here, but when you, like in Illinois, there's only a couple questions that separates an A and a B. There's no difference.
So true.
Well,
literally 2 questions. Go ahead, bro. Yeah.
And how can you be that person and get that extra 2 questions?
Yeah.
How can you be that person that beat that first step on that cross step? How can you beat the person getting that rebound? How can you get that flip together where it gets you to that next flip? It's practice, it's repetition, it's education. You have to become a master of your trade. And it's not about doing things right. It's how you handle things when things don't go right. It's more important sometimes to see things go wrong than everything always go right. And that's why training in medicine is so long, because you're going to see a whole lot of bad stuff. But until you see all the complications, you don't know how to deal with the complication when you see it.
I heard a quote that said, You know, anybody can be a captain on calm waters. Like going back to when you said you could train me how to do what you do.
Yeah.
You probably could if everything was smooth and calm, but you know what I mean? If one thing didn't go right, I'm calling you and oh boy, you know, right? So I'm just throwing that to your point, you know, that's when you learn how to lead.
And that's the thing too, you know, great leaders sometimes leave behind. You know, our job as leaders is not always show people the path, but to show them, you know, whether they, you know, how to make that right and left turn and let them go ahead and go forward. But good leaders leave behind and they listen more than they talk.
Mm.
I think those are things I would probably tell them in a lot of different senses, but I think it summarizes a lot of parts that they can take far in their life, no matter what they're doing.
Any family quotes, scriptures, words of wisdom that you hang your hat on that you'd like to share with the Self Love Nation? For example, you know, it could be something like, you know, if you roll around in the dirt with scum, you know how everybody, you know, and I don't know if some of this was, you can look back on it, some of it came all the way from Africa. You know, you just thought it was your old uncle talking crap. But can you remember anything that you used to hear all the time and from your family coming up and then, oh man, that is true?
You know, we had a lot of things. I can't think of any right offhand, but you know, I have older parents. You know, my mother August at the age of 95. So they said things I never can actually really understand. But the things that resonate with me, they weren't the good things that I remember. It's always my dad in my ear, you know, when something really happened. And I remember him saying, you know, when he gets really angry, and I should be saying, he's like, boy, I walk your ass like Christ walked the water. Then it comes,
love it.
I kill you and serve my time. So but those are hard knocks that we needed in order to stay focused and not become knuckleheads.
Man,
the wrong thing.
Tough love is love, man. Lazy love is hate.
And I respect that because I always knew where I was with him and what I need to do. And I was a pleaser as a kid. You know, I wanted to make my family feel special that I was doing okay.
Wow. Recommend, as we're wrapping it up, recommend a book. And if you're going to go biblical or something, fine. But then we're going to ask you to recommend another book on top of any scripture or holy book to the Self Love Nation.
You know, I'll tell you, that's probably one of my defects in life. I read so much medical stuff. When I had time to myself, the last thing I do is pick up a book. And that's a bad thing because there's a lot of knowledge in books. And I feel bad because, you know, a lot of times people they spit this knowledge about great authors and I really can't share in those conversations. When my wife and I go on vacation, you know, when she's reading her book, I'm trying to pick up my golf clubs. I'm not even gonna lie.
I feel you. I feel you. Any book coming up, growing up, you read in high school, college, and if not, recommend a medical book. You know, maybe a doctor or something might, you know, want to read it. That's in the panel.
Well, I'm constantly writing medical books and journalism. My big thing I'm doing right now is that, you know, I'm reading a lot of things on diversity and inclusion because I do work for 5 different companies. I'm on their boards and I'm trying to make sure that industry is on the right part of history and diligence for Black and brown people. Because part of the issues we have around medicine has to do with the policies that we have in place and the medicines maybe not being effective in people that look like you and I because we're not part of clinical trials. Part of things that I'm reading is how we break down those barriers. How do we be more inclusive in clinical trials to make sure the efficacy and the safety profiles are just as good as it's, you know, so in journals, for example, let's take a disease. Let's take breast cancer. Breast cancer in Black women has a 40% mortality rate than whites. They get the same treatment, right? But why are they dying more?
Why?
Because when you look at the trials, less than 10% was in the studies. How can you have a prostate trial in this world today and not have Black people in your study? How can you be developing medicines for hypertension and not have Black people in your study? So is there something in our bodies, genetic-wise or DNA-wise, that we don't respond to certain drugs a certain way? And so what I'm trying to do now is educate white physicians, because it's the majority of them, to feel comfortable in talking to their Black patients to get them involved in trials, because it's not enough of me to actually go around. So that's kind of what I've been working on for the last 6 months, and that's most of the literature that I'm working around.
Can you, if you're, because our nation, can you kind of just briefly explain to our nation like the benefit of a trial? Because just for me, playing devil's advocate goes back to what you were talking about earlier with the Tuskegee experiment, and then I mentioned during big slavery, we were typical guinea pigs. So yeah, what would be the benefit of a cat participating in a trial?
So the reason why you have clinical trials is to prove or disprove something, right? I mean, that's why there's different phases. But by the time you get to a phase 3 trial, that's right before it goes to market. You have a certain amount of people in a trial, and you're looking at efficacy. You already have ruled out that the drug is safe and there's a benefit. So now you're looking at efficacy on how well something works, and you look at outcomes and whatever your primary endpoints are. The reason why it's important is because I think, it's me talking, I believe there are genetic differences depending on where you come from and how you handle certain drugs. And I don't think that all the drugs are the same in everyone. It's not one shoe fit all. But in order to know that, we need the genome. We need to have DNA samples on why you responded to a hypertensive medication, but Lucy didn't.
What you're saying is true, bro. Even recreational drugs, different people respond to different recreational drugs differently. But go ahead.
Complete facts.
Yes, facts. Yes, it's facts.
So we can hypothesize about this, but until you have evidence-based medicine, it's hard for you to prove it. As a scientist, I need facts.
Science.
That diaper you're talking about, to me, that diaper, if we wore that diaper, we'd be in a whole different situation right now.
Hey,
but I love the commentary about it. I'm not. I can respect it.
You're the doctor. Listen.
But from a scientific standpoint, the goal is to keep your germs to yourself.
Correct.
And we don't want to get off on the COVID vaccination, because that's a whole different segment.
Well, no, they've already given us a warning.
It's an important thing, and Black people need to understand it. And all these myths. Your platform is reaching enough people where you got to say that, what. I'm going to say 3 things. The goal of vaccination is 3 things: to prevent severe disease, prevent death, and transmission. That's it.
That's fair, bro. That's fair. And we got to get them on the COVID panel, but Self Luv and I, we don't know. We might have to wait till next year, because you play baseball and Self play. You only get so many strikes with YouTube, you know what I mean? And per year before they start, trying to, put your finger up your bum. Now we're going to go through the quick hits. And if you guys don't know what bum is, it's a English term from over the pond, our kinsman over there. Bum. All right, quick hits, bro. Quick hits. And these are yes and no answers. Yes, no, sir. Is there a God?
Yes.
Have you ever seen anything supernatural, meaning demonic, spiritual, felt a breath on your back of your neck and nobody was around?
Yes.
Wow. Have you ever seen an unidentified flying object?
Maybe some people could identify with that, but I'm gonna say no.
All right. Have you ever seen an alien?
No.
Did human do the moonwalk on the moon during the big Apollo program?
I would say definitely yes.
Okay. Anything that we have not covered, Dr. Coney, that you want to get out there?
Just for the young people, I think the best thing I want to wrap it up is that, don't let people steal your thunder. Don't let them steal your dream. You can do anything that you want to do. You don't always have to search out people that look like you. Anyone that have your interests, that's all you really need. Go through that door that never been opened. Take that path that's least traveled. Write your own destiny. I think that, those sort of things, foundation-wise, would take you a long way. Learn your trade, learn your craft, become the best you can be twice as good as everybody else, and then give back. once you made it, you give back, because that's what we are. I mean, if we don't give back, then everything we've done is really useless. But that's what this whole love show is about, is giving back. That's why we are that's why we give our time tonight and not spending time with our families, because we think this is important. But that's the real key, give back. We got so many family members that may have been incarcerated, and you just, some people are just forgotten about in society, but these are good people, and they have a hard time matriculating when they get back. It's our job to get them back on their right feet, give them the opportunities. The trade schools are phenomenal. I mean, these are, no job is too little that you can't do. Let me just tell you, I know people that started work, busting McDonald's, now they own McDonald's.
Right.
I got people that do my lawn, can't speak English, but guess what? They got a big business going on. Don't think that you cannot take something and make it into nothing. Those you can take nothing and make it into something, because the sky is the limit. And that's really it, man. I mean, you guys done a great job. Your platform is good. I've chimed in a couple of times. I mean, your heart's in the right place. I wish there was more brothers out there doing what you're doing. It's a lot of fun. It's not always serious, but it's real talk. Real people coming from real places doing great things. So big ups.
Hey, big ups to you, Noob. Some
I
real talk.
I never thought a bunch of animals could actually put something like this together. So it's
it's edutainment. Are you not edutained? What are you talking about?
And for my ship,
you already know.
And for my ship out there that's a Pranimal, I don't know why he feel the pressure, but Noob, you don't have to feel the pressure. You just gotta stay faithful. That's it. It's amazing how everybody, want to feel pressure to do something. Animals want you to feel pressure to change, but pretty boys, we cool, man. We happy. We don't try to convert nobody.
Well, it's his show. We're going to give him all of that.
That's all I'm saying. That probably wasn't.
Hold on.
You're the oldest brother. So my club's not going to give him that.
I'm not going to listen to that rubbish. It's rubbish. We are all individuals that move how we move, and what I mean. Pretty boys move how y'all move, and we move how we move, and it's incongruent. What I mean. It works together.
And your ship is an abomination. He's an embarrassment. Love him, great brother, military guy. He's your ship. He's going to be on here next week. Shameless plug. I believe next week we're doing more. I think it's more realty. So
realty.
Yeah, we're having a panel of those cats in Wednesday. But Dr. Coney, we're not getting you out of here. We just need 9 more minutes of your time, Dr. Coney. We're going to play we got a game that we play with everyone that sits here, good brother. All right. So I don't know if you have any libations or anything like that. Partake. This part, we may or may not, post it. So. But here we go. Let me get the thing here. But Dr. Coney, are you familiar with a young man? Well, he's a grown man now, but he's out of Bompton. Some people may call it Compton. He fancies himself some sort of a rapper. The Game. Are you familiar with him?
Vaguely.
Good. The Game. Yeah. He's probably sitting next to you when you're at the game, watching the championship, sitting there watch, what's his name? LeBron James win a chip. But anyway, The Game. So The Game is a name dropper of sorts, I've discovered, almost in all of his records. And so Self Luv and I, we've structured a game based off of him dropping names. Oh, wait a minute. Wrong song. So in this game, it's okay to drop names. Here in LA, we don't like name droppers. We think it's crass. Every doctor I meet, I can say, hey, Dr. Coney? You know what I mean? It's crass. People used to be on the yard, hey, do you know Coney? He's a beta noob. Do you know him? Crass. Nobody cared. All right, but here we go, bro. So the game, the way this game is played, we're going to give you clues. Each clue is going to cost you a point, except for the first clue. The first clue is a free point, assuming that you guess it right after the first clue. Also, we may give you a free clue up top. Anyone that's in the chat, feel free to help. He can phone a friend and ask, but he's not looking at the chat. We'll never question his veracity. But in the chat, you guys can have some fun and play the game too, for craps and giggles. All right, here we go. Here we go, Dr. Coney. So this is the game name game. The first segment, the first 3 questions, Noop, are worth a possible 6 points. This free clue, this is a place. This is not a person. We're looking for a name of a place. This is a noun. It's a place. This place was a eatery located adjacent to the Six Pack.
The Orange.
Ding, 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 ding. The Orange is closed now. I think it's some big corporate company now. Last time I went there, it is no longer the Orange and hasn't been for quite some time, but that is correct. So that was a six-pointer, scorekeeper. Question number 2. Free clue. This individual is from Chicago. This individual is from Chicago. That is a free clue. This Earth, this Mother Earth, this original woman, this queen, was a graduate of Harvard Law School. That's your first clue. Second clue. When they go low, we go high.
Done. It's my first cousin, Michelle Obama.
Wow. Is that literally your first cousin? Because I saw you in the picture and everything. If that's your first cousin by 6 degrees of separation, I want you to tell somebody in your family that I said big ups. You know what I mean? Big ups. Keep doing what you're doing, Michelle. Big ups. All right, here we go. All right. Next, last one in the easy series of questions. This individual or this person is not from Chicago. This person or entity was an extremely contested racist Illini mascot. Next clue.
Yeah.
White boys in red face performed ritual dance at halftime of basketball and football games. First clue.
I know it's
First clue, racist contested Illini mascot. Second clue, the white boys would dress up in red face and perform the halftime ritual. Third clue. Who'd you say? What?
Chief Illini.
There it is. Yeah, that is the chief, bro. That's Chief Illini. Yeah, guys, they buried the chief and people don't even talk about him no more. Free the chief. I mean, I think it's racist. And again, when I was down at school, the Native Americans explained it to me, and I said, yeah, it's stupid. They told me, what if we were the Fighting Illini Spear Chuckers or something of this nature? And I said to myself, well, all right, enough said. And then they said it again, and I said, enough said. You know what I mean? And then they said it again. He said again, I'm going to punch you in your face. All right, here we go, bro. These questions, self-love, because I did do the scoring wrong yesterday. This next series are worth 9 points, 9 possible points, Nope. This individual, this is a free clue, self-love. He is not from Chicago. First clue that you're paying money for, the moonwalk. And you can guess wrong. There's no penalty for wrong guesses. Now, next clue. Scarecrow in The Wiz. First clue, moonwalk. Second clue, Scarecrow in The Wiz.
Rest in peace, my good artist from Gary, Indiana, Michael Jackson.
That is correct. That is correct. Michael Jackson. You ignorant. 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 All right, here we go. And rest up. Rest up. All right, this is a good one. This individual, I'll give you a free clue, is not from Chicago, but absolutely lived in Chicago. Absolutely. All right, here we go. First clue. I'm pretty. Second clue. I'm the greatest man alive.
Got it.
I'm pretty. We would have accepted Muhammad Ali or Cassius Clay. We probably would have ducked you a point for the Cassius Clay because we want to respect and rest up. But we would have accepted both. But that's I gave himself 2 clues, so he got that's a 9-pointer. So he got 7 points for that. 7 points for that one. Here we go. This is important because you got it. You know, Kareem Pender came in here. You know, you're from Inglewood. He's repping the low end. You know what I mean? This is important. Whose schooling was better? All right, here we go. This individual, to my knowledge, was born in Chicago, but scratch that from your brain because I don't know. I can tell you this, though. Chicago champion. Damn it. Champion. That's your free clue. Here we go. This Chicago champ.
Oh, can I just say a name?
You can.
Do I get penalized for a name?
No, you don't get penalized.
Michael Jordan.
It's a good guess. It's a good guess, but no, you don't get penalized. If you were playing against someone else, you would. So here we go.
Yeah.
The first clue. This individual's first name matches an extremely famous chicken franchise located all over the south side of Chicago.
Harold Washington.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. I like your reasoning. This guy, he probably could have been a head knocker self. You know what I mean? I got to get his Dean Hodges Beard, Stephen Beard on the phone. All right, so that one, we gave you 1 clue. So that was an 8-pointer, scorekeeper. And here we go. You got 7 more, bro. And these are the 12-pointer, scorekeeper. We're going into the 12-point series. Here we go, Noop. This individual is white. That's your free clue. This is a white individual. All right, here we go. The architect of the Bulls triangle offense.
Tex winners.
Wow, I didn't know if I was going to serve this up to you, Noop. You know, you struggle with Chief Alinawick for the name of God. You're getting all A's on the yard. You know what I mean? How in the hell would he know who Tex Winters was? But big ups. And you got that on 1 clue. So
I'm a Bulls fan.
See, 11 points. Big ups, bro. Big ups. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. Did you hear that, Brother Stallings? He didn't care less about the football team. And U of I. Here we go. Here we go. This individual, free clue, is from Chicago. That's your free clue. This individual's named himself after a popular board game where people pile on top of each other and try not to fall. That's your first clue.
Twister? Oh, Twister. Yeah, Twister.
ding, ding, ding. Hey, bro. Yeah, see, I would have, you know what, bro? I would have called you up if I was the dean of the medical school. Yeah, I would have called you up. You have an ability to reason. And if Brother Pullen is out there and we're talking about my club, you know, I mean, come on. This is logic and reasoning. You probably took some philosophy when you're on the yard. All right, here we go. Getting those all A's. All right, here we go, bro. This is the last one, Nope. And the, what are these points worth? We had, oh boy. This is the last in the 6, 9, 12. So this is the last in the 12-point series, and then we get to the final series of questions. Free clue. This individual is not from Chicago. This individual is not from Chicago. All right, chat. You might know this, chat, even if you're from Cleveland. This individual allegedly walked away from a $50 million entertainment contract. Walked away.
LeBron James.
Next clue.
Hold on. Dave Chappelle.
Ding, 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 ding. Dave Chappelle. Ding, ding. I don't know if LeBron walked away from 50 million, but you know, because Worldwide West is telling him, hey, listen, you ain't going nowhere. Right. You better go out and get that money. Worldwide West is pimping LeBron. I said it. May not be true. You know, my sources, you know, who don't know these people personally, know people who don't know them personally and tell me all types of stuff. This is TATN. All right, here we go. Here we go. This is the last one, bro. And those, no, these are the 18 pointers. So they're going to get a little more esoteric. Free clue. This individual is not from Chicago. This individual is not from the city of Chicago. This individual is a notorious name dropper. Clue number 2.
California. Game we playing.
This individual had a major beef with 50 Cent.
What's the name of this game we playing?
I heard it. He said game. He did say game, and that's the game. I'll give you that. All right. Yeah, because you're right. That's it. That was the game, bro. So how many clues was that, Self? Name dropper. And I think I gave him. Did I give you G Unit, or all you got was name dropper? I think that was a one cluer. All right, so that's 18 points. Here we go. This ancestor is not from Chicago. But if you can't figure this out, I will personally call, what do you call the people who do the deporting people? You call that people and you report them and you say, I think these people need to be deported. I would call those people. And the fact that I don't know their name is proof that I'm not calling these people to all my Latinx people out there. But here we go. Not from Chicago. That's your free clue. Here we go. 1750s settler believed to be of Haitian origin.
I think he may have a museum named after him in Chicago, in Sabo.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah. And I would suggest next time you go there to Haiti, you connect with those people and tell them about that museum. You know what I mean? They'll get excited about it. You know, take some video or something. They will get excited about it. Take your kids there. All right, here we go. This is the last one, and then we got the big 36-pointer at the end. So here we go. This individual, free clue, is from the south side of the Windy City. All right. This individual is from the south side of Chi-Town. Here we go. This individual is the son of Lonnie Lynn, former NBA basketball player, who's also from Chicago. and rest his soul. Rest up, Lonnie Lynn. Actually, no, Lonnie Lynn's daughter. Half brother to who I'm talking about. Next clue. Nope. I know you don't do a lot of reading outside of those big medical journals. Here we go. Thomas Paine, because I know you were reading to get those grades. Thomas Paine's famous book shares a name with this gentleman. Son of Lonnie Lynn, pioneer era, slave era author Thomas Paine, who probably plagiarized it from his slave. Thomas Paine's famous book contains this cat's name. Next clue. This cat's name could be synonymous, if you will, with a very rare form of sense. No? Is that right? No. It's not a rare. That's not a rare. No. An unrare kind of sense. Son of Lonnie Lynn. His dad is deceased, former NBA player. Thomas Paine is a Revolutionary era author who wrote a famous book. As far as white people are concerned, he probably plagiarized it from his black slave.
Pass. Phone a friend.
All right, chat. He's phoning a friend. Chat. He does get to phone a friend. That has been used. So now you got 2 more clues if you want to use those, but we're going to leave that there. And if there's anybody still in the chat, I know you guys want to get to sleep. Please, if you know the answer, type it in there. He's asking to phone a friend. Here is the 36 pointer before we double back to that last one. Give your brain a chance to marinate on it, because they get more difficult as you go. But this is the final question. Very final question. The only free clue is this is one of our ancestors, and he's a god, as far as I'm concerned. People can argue all they want. Here we go. This god is not from Chicago, but founded the first interracial U.S. hospital. Boom. Proud of you, bro. Proud of you. And also, you said you're not a historian, but I ain't buying it. He began as a shoemaker's apprentice. Some of these things you've been talking about on the show, about how you came up. He began his life humbly as a shoemaker's apprentice, bro. And then he became a barber. And I'm sure he took both of those crafts just as seriously. He graduated with his MD degree in 1883 at Chicago Medical College. He, at that time, you're what? The only brother in 2021? Well, at some point, maybe there's more in Ohio now, but at that time, nope, he was one of 3 black medical doctors in Chicago at that time. So he became the third, and he was the first to perform open heart surgery, as I'm sure you know, on a human successfully. And his patient went on to live. And he did that, ladies and gentlemen, without x-rays. This is a black man, people. And why they don't talk about this in school is just completely stupid, right? So anyway, we'll leave it at this. He did all of this work, and you're a doctor. He did it without x-rays, without antibiotics, without surgical prep work, or the tools of modern day surgery. How magnanimous is that? So back to the final question. Let's see if you got some chat help here. Make Self Love. I gotta ask him to unmute.
You said he's from Chicago?
No, I don't believe he was, bro. I don't believe Dan. I don't, but don't quote me on that. I don't think he was. I think he came from like the East Coast somewhere.
Who we talking
but
about?
Daniel, Dr.
Hale
Daniel,
Williams.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
He wasn't from Chicago.
Right. But he did a lot of studying and stuff here. You know, Chicago, man,
Yeah.
I mean, there was Mecca. You know, it was, man, people don't talk
Founded
about
by
that.
who? That's why they don't talk about it, because most places are the place that has been founded is named by the person that they recognize as the founder.
Well, what's the dilemma with this LaSalle? Because when I talk to a lot of pink people, or if I ask people generally, they'll say LaSalle, was he just the banker that made everything happen? I mean, I know.
I think that I'm not completely sure, but it might be the fort that was there. You know, the pink people put there.
But Fort Dearborn wasn't there before.
Dearborn. No, not before, definitely. But they placed themselves before us at every chance they get. You know, that's been their whole nature. Like the Dark Ages, I don't want to get on the, soapbox, but the Dark Ages is when they burned all the original stuff, and not quite burned it, but they kept it and buried it. And then the Renaissance is when they put them as the people that did it.
Oh yeah, stole history. So Dr. Coney, you did get a phone a friend, one of the regulators from U of I. Yeah, Ace, one of my regulators. So he's actually got a blue jacket. He's a moderator. He's a great friend of the show, and he's going to be on Mouthpiece Included. Self, are you going to be on that tomorrow? What's going on? You haven't confirmed.
Yeah, I will.
All right, appreciate that. All right, so here we go, Noop. So the answer to that question was Common, and we would have taken Rashid. So Common Sense. He's the son of Lonnie Lynn. That was his dad. Thomas Paine wrote a famous book called Common Sense, right? And supposedly this book jumped off the, along with CRISPR addicts, jumped off the spirit of the revolution right here in the United States. They were writing books like Common Sense, Common Sense, like Thomas stuff Paine. We got to do, right?
And Rashid's name is Lonnie Rashid Lynn.
Correct, his government name. And so just for education, and he's, down with Obama and your first cousin. And then Rare Sense. A rare, and I did that wrong. That's why I corrected it. It's an unrare sense, right? Common sense. I thought you would get that, Joe. And then Rashid. So you probably wouldn't have known that. I didn't get there because you called for phone a friend. And then the last clue I was going to give you would have been the light. And I think you would have put all that together by then. No, the light.
Well, I sent you a chat and it said there's a comment, but you didn't see it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, good. That was common then. Well, either way, you got the points because you called for a phone a friend and Ace got it. Yeah. So, it was common. So,
your first cousin, I can throw a brick from where I'm at right now to where she grew up, or the house that they live in. That's,
You know what? Throw a brick at it. And I want, right
no,
here.
No, I'm not going to throw a brick at it.
I want Secret Service. If the spooks are listening, Secret Service.
No. I don't need no Secret Service or no spooks. I could, but I would not throw it. I would not. I would,
You saw the one on say that. On 74th and Euclid?
I'm on Euclid Parkway, which is like.
I know where you are.
Yeah, you know exactly where I'm like.
You guys got those little half streets.
Yeah.
Yeah, those half blocks.
This the only 74 and Euclid Parkway is the only Euclid Parkway in the city that I know of.
Yeah, you'd think it was an alley. When Self had to convince me, he's like, no, that's a street.
That's street. Baldwin Avenue, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Euclid Parkway.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Euclid Avenue is right there, and like
yes,
very. You got lifelong bonds.
And Coney,
she knows me. You could talk to your first cousin. Yeah.
And Coney, South Shore High School, bro, is different now. Go ahead. It's one of the better schools now.
Well, it's like 4 or 5 schools. The old building is now training for police.
And they built a whole but it's one of the better. Like I think they're gentrifying that area and they're setting it all up.
It's 3 schools within that building. Yeah, new building. And,
Yeah,
you know,
I know the enrollments for a lot of these schools have been tough, so they've kind of merged in a lot of things. Even some 8th graders. I know Lindblom was part of that transition as well, where they brought in some other kids to keep the building, just open. It's a landmark in the city, but it's a tough environment to come through. But it's still producing some great kids.
Yes, it is. It's producing, and it's about time Lindblom and their alumni and get together and get those kids a parking lot, for God's sakes. These kids that don't have space. It's horrible around there, man. They're sitting there, man. It's like shooting fish in a barrel for those little thugs around there, want to rob and take everything. Shooting fish in a barrel. They're walking around there looking for parking, man. And, and that's terrible. City of Chicago, that area has been like that for such a great school. It's terrible that we don't protect those kids. But I'm digressing. But Dr. Coney.
Our children.
Yeah, you're right.
Kids
are
are
little
baby goats, and
so
our children. Let's
understood. You're right. Yeah. So Dr. Coney, we don't kick anyone out. All right. Especially damn sure not any greater beta noobs. So anything, show your way out, and then Self Love and I will wrap the show up. And thank you so much for doing this, Noob. Thank you so much.
Salute.
Much appreciation. I also want to thank the people that hung around on the show.
Oh
Facts.
my God.
I got
man,
a lot of texts from family, from friends. Cleveland kind of represented, appreciated. All my old dogs from Lindblom represented. The family represented. My noobs, my ships. You guys keep doing what you're doing. Be positive. Keep spreading the love. Keep spreading the knowledge. And hopefully, this year we'll hopefully get together. Greater Beta picnic, hopefully, because I love you guys. And people don't understand our bond was tight. All of us became, we entered as boys. We came out as men. There was a lot of knowledge that we shared, a lot of things that we shared that we probably shouldn't have shared. But it really made us who we are. It helped pave the way to who we become. And, I'm glad to know that we still are friends today. It was a great experience just being in Illinois with you guys, and I love the platform. Absolutely love it. So big ups. A lot
man, and
thank you, man.
And big ups to Cleveland and Dizzy Bone and Brother Coney. I remember you as a pledge, bro. And I just had a memory right now. I remember telling you, bro, because it was something, Tori told me. And that was the only thing he ever told me was, man, you can't be in here thinking. Like, cut that. And Dr. Coney is so smart. Like, he's here. He's processing everything. And, I remember him. He would be sitting there processing and trying to rationalize certain things. And, I remember trying to tell cats like him, that's not going to win you anything here.
It's not wise. It's not wise.
You're going to burn out and, but
take
man.
all logic and throw it out the window. You say logic, woo, or woo, wherever.
Dr. Coney used to be sitting there trying to process everything. Like, you're going to process all right. But no. Love you, brother.
Man.
All right, gentlemen.
Yes,
much love.
Sir.
Hey,
honor, respect, and love all the time.
Man, listen, man, fantastic, bro. And I'm ashamed of myself that I ain't just kept in better contact with that Newt, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Switch it over to the other.
Oh, yeah. Good job, so. Yeah, gallery view.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Wow. Right?
Man. Wow.
And I never say this to people when I say don't read. He would probably be poisoned by reading other stuff because it's almost as though he's read everything I've read, the things he's coming out of his mouth.
Well, he might have, actually.
It's just
not everything.
He's lived it. He's living it. He's speaking from a person that's just doing. And so a lot of things that people put in a book, they put in a book after having had done. You know what I mean? And so it's just fantastic that this cat did this. And, I really feel like this one's going to be huge for our community, good brother.
Yes, absolutely. He was
and again,
and just moved along the lines to grow, and he was unfiltered and doing what he does. I mean, we look at the chat and hear all accolades and the great things that
Intelligent chat too, huh?
go along with. I mean, come on.
You know what I mean? These guys, I don't think they were sitting here watching the show, did
No, the
and
chat
teachers. Parents and teachers, my fault,
like,
Self. My fault. I
The
gotta say this.
chat.
It was on about, but parents and teachers, if you are talking to a kid and they're doing this, chances are they're not paying attention to anything that's coming out of your mouth, and you got to get them refocused. Go ahead. So the chat was what? Intelligent.
Extremely, and on point.
Facts.
Great show, a great guest, amazing.
Man.
And the is growing exponentially. Like, we are lining up with our purpose, and it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man. I would love to go to Haiti. I mean, I'm not an MD or anything, but I'm sure I can go over there and, you know what I mean?
No, we shall be on gonna have a show from Haiti.
Right? Because you were going into, how they stood up to the French and then had to pay the French back for enslaving them.
Yeah, but they freed up a whole lot of, because the French said, "Oh, wow, what's going on here?" And they left here. They sold so much land to the people that started this situation.
Facts.
That they had. So
Facts.
that was, important.
Man, so hey, you guys, again, thanks for your support. Tuesday we have Mark Daniels Self. This
Tuesday?
Is
oh wow.
Yeah, that's Tuesday, and that's a silverback from the East Boogie.
Yes, sir.
East St. Louis, right? Made his way
And
to
I just remembered the name, so I don't want to, Toussaint Louverture in Haiti was the main historical figure that they talked about that. But
yeah,
Mark
he was.
Daniels, oh man, Spring '86 is.
But yeah, they said
incredible.
Toussaint was he was an assistant. I think he might have been a spook and put there. I mean, I think outside the box, but he was working for one of the top generals from France, whatever, and watching how they moved and learning. So he had a lot of inside information, and he did that. Yeah, he was a spook that sat by the door. So big ups for that memory and saying his name. Yeah, but yeah, Brother Daniels, bro. So, you yeah.
Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready? I wonder, because Black conservatism is going to be on display.
Yeah. I don't even know if he's claiming. Well, but yeah, I hear you. He's gonna get. Oh boy, I hear you. But are we liberal? That's the question.
We're not. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Well, no. I mean, as a community, does our values line up, match up more?
It depends. Depends on a lot of things, because a lot of people, are religious, and some of the religious things is leading towards one direction, and how people actually act is in a different direction.
The alt left is wacky, crazy science, and the alt right is wacky, crazy, religion. I didn't say anything about God. I hear you, bro. I hear you.
I didn't say anything about God either.
No, I know you didn't. Yeah. I'm saying that's what the alt right is, religion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then Wednesday we're doing the More Realty show, and that's Self Love's wheelhouse. Okay. So, so we got Brother Pullen. That's where we got Cake, the other Cake, and then his Brother Patterson, the Paranimal.
Yeah.
And I think Brother Murray. Is going to step up to the plate. He doesn't know much. Yeah, he doesn't know much, but it's good to have that perspective. Somebody's just getting into the flipping business and things of this nature. So we'll teach you guys how to stuff your money bag.
Yes, we will. As we teach ourselves.
Facts. So if you all are into sports and politics, as we mentioned earlier, we got Mouthpiece included mañana at 9 p.m. Central right here. The topic is going to be the NFL scouting combine, or is that big slavery?
Roughly 23 hours from now.
Yep, and it's going to be live. Self Love and myself will be there. It's only a 1 hour show. You don't have to sit through it like this. And we'll have other silverbacks, and we'll be talking about that. And then the chat will be open as well. And then we're going to right now jump it over to my favorite part of the show, one of my favorite parts, Wordsmith's final words out there.
Woosah. Man, we took in a lot of information to expand our nation. Most of it was simple, no matter the language. No complication. We here at TATN, the Self Luv Show, are blazing a path. We're going to leave people amazed at the wrath that we move. It's a beautiful situation for cultural and mental aggregation, the growth, anticipation, Self-Love Nation.
Soul, aka Daylight, aka The Plugs. We're about to get in this song Church.
Man,
AKA,
y'all understand how it goes. Tory Wordsmith, 9 Mills, the Black Terminator. We had to expose the whole situation, bro. Come through the jungle smelling like a rose.
Facts. Bullets are boomerangs, G.
Stand your ground.
Murder is suicide.
An eye for an eye.
Silence is violence.
You see something? You better say something.
12, dirty, swallow. Hey, yo, greed plus ego divided by fear. That's slavery. So that's slave theory, Self. That's G plus capital E. Put a line over capital F equals capital S. Slavery, slave theory.
For sure. And that's just the theory, but charity plus humility times love is freedom.
That's freedom theory. That's
fact.
Capital
Freedom
C.
Fact. Freedom fact.
That's capital C plus capital H times heart. That equals capital F. Freedom.
Period.
Don't, under any circumstances, for any reason, don't answer questions.
But don't believe nothing they tell you, man. Don't believe nothing they tell you. You better question everything.
Everything, bro?
Everything.
I mean, seriously, bro. I mean, can you see
everything? Everything you hear that you don't know or feel yourself, you better question, because they here to.
All right,
Man.
all right, famo. Hey, fear is cap. Fear is an illusion.
Absolutely. So vibrate love. Vibrate love everywhere you go. You know, from this conversation we had today, You vibrate love can open up opportunities.
Facts. Never know who you're talking to. You know, you're out there vibrating your hate on your way to a big interview for a big company, and you talking to the vice president, and you could have sat there and stuck your big foot in your mouth, right, Sal? Talking about nonsense.
Right.
Thanks. All right, well, here we go. So, if you're vibrating love, right? Forgiveness and charity, it's the highest vibrations of that love, self. Forgiveness and charity, bro.
So, do something charitable for an enemy. Let's mend the issues.
Man, stop that pendulum. If you want to have that pendulum swinging, let's swing some love back and forth. You know what I mean? To and fro. Let's get that momentum going. Big ups to momentum. So, self-love, they say hurt people hurt people.
That's right. So healthy people need to heal people.
Free Jeffrey Fort.
Absolutely. And free Larry Hoover.
More I think about it, you can free most of them guys, man.
Man, prison is slavery.
Come on, man. You being hyperbolic. Nope, don't you think?
No, man, no. You know about the 13th Amendment and what it said and what it means.
Nope, they said the 14th Amendment, bro, took all of the so-called rights that we were supposed to get. It was a trick bag, bro. So the corporations, they wrote all that shit up, right? And loaded up the corporations. Well, facts. So black folks, start a corporation. If they're going to give those rights to corporations and not us, start a damn corporation.
Put it out in front of us.
What's that, bro?
So we can put it out in front of us.
Correct. Walk on water. Be like St. Peter. You know, I think we had a quote from this brother today. His dad used to tell him. We say, I'm going to kick your ass like you walking on water or something like that. Right? Do you remember the quote?
Nah.
All right. So walk on H2O. Self-love. Be like St. Peter.
Mountains.
Ooh, mountains.
Yes, sir.
Is this N-word out of his mind?
Yes.
Who? Move a mountain? Bro, I can't even get up off the couch. How am I supposed to move a mountain?
Man, with the faith of a mustard seed, we got way more than that. I'm like Noah, bro.
G, you got to be tripping, G. You talking about mountain? This mountain?
Yeah, man, that one.
G, I'm hurting my neck, bro. You talking about how I'm supposed to do that? We supposed to do that, bro. How is a nation supposed to move a mountain, famo?
The faith of a mustard seed. We got way more than that, bro.